All right, well, we're going to start this in just 2 seconds here. We're going to do the national anthem, and then we're going to do the show introduction, and we're going to kick off CoCoTALK. So please, all rise for our national anthem. This is CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer, with your host, Mr. Gameplay Goodness himself, Stevie Stroud. All right, welcome everybody. And I lost track. Is this number 27?
Yes, I believe so, because wasn't it the half-year anniversary last week?
Yeah, I think last year was episode 26. So welcome to CoCoTALK episode 27. And we are streaming on our brand new color computer dedicated channel, right? So if you're watching us right now, you're watching us on the I'm a Coconut channel. And this is a channel I created just recently to celebrate all things color computer, and we are going to be moving things here. So all future episodes of CoCoTALK will air here. Now on my old channel, because it's hard to get information out there, I have a little banner that's streaming right now, just letting people know. So people who are used to watching CoCoTALK on the old channel will be greeted with a message saying, head on over to the I'm a Coconut channel. And here we are. We are on episode 27. Right now I am greeted by, who has not been with us in a while too, but the lovely and talented John Strong. Welcome, John Strong. How are you?
Yeah, I think we need to take a donation to get your eyes checked. But...
It's the dark lighting. It fools him.
Okay.
We've got Barry Nelson with us. We've got from the Great White North, L. Curtis Boyle. We've got Richard Lorbieski with us. We have Bill Nobel, Curtis's partner in crime. How's it going, A?
Pretty good.
And then we have, last but certainly not least, Mr. Floppy Talk himself, David Ladd. Welcome, David. You don't have to speak all at once there, David. All right. So that's who we have with us right now. And the great thing about CoCoTALK is that anytime anything can and will happen. So who knows who will join? Who knows who will leave? Who knows who will even watch, for that matter? But we're here. We're here for another week. And John Strong, we have not heard from you in quite some time. So would you like to fill us in maybe on some things that you've been up to?
Well, life has been beating up on me a little bit, so I've been sick, but did get to look at my Dr. CoCo a little bit to start getting it prepped for release. And
that's the Dr. Mario clone for anybody who doesn't know that by name. Okay.
And see what I need. It's definitely playable right now. It needs some tweaks here and there, a little bit more graphics work on the background screens and such, but did check it out to get it prepped. I am going to target that for the John Linville Game Master board. So
excellent.
Okay.
Including the special sound?
Yes. With that, I won't need the bank switching on that board, but if I have it there, I might be able to throw something special in to use some of the extra memory. But so
that means it will play hardware assisted background music.
Yes, yeah, and it also supports the bank switching scheme. So. I may decide to take advantage of the extra memory and do something special as far as graphics with that. And also, the Andy is targeting the Game Master cartridge.
Excellent.
So, So that's
do you think you'll be ready by Tandy Assembly or a little bit after that for the first one?
No, I'm not going to be ready by Tandy Assembly. I'm not going to be able to make it to Tandy Assembly. And so I don't have the boards yet, but that's in the works.
Okay. It's just kind of cool to hear about it because I think you're going to probably be the first release to use the MasterCard.
Well, unless, John happens to come up with something and get, a little bit busier than I am on it.
Yeah, he might have something for Tandy Assembly. Who knows? A little surprise.
Yeah, I don't know. People are, not sure what they want to do yet because they haven't seen a game on it. If you're going to do a standalone cart, I think it's the way to go. And John has graciously agreed to share his board design with me, and it saves me from duplicating the effort.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll help John in the long run, bringing the cost of the boards down. So, because the more you order, the cheaper they get. So.
Yep. Well, at least we have a standard for cartridge games now that has built-in sound. So.
Yeah, I think that's the two things we're going to have. We're going to have a standard for, a cartridge that has built-in sound, and then you're going to have, the other sound cards. Okay, which is cool. I like them all. I think the Game Master is kind of the way to go, at least right now. Cost-wise, ease of use for doing an all-in-one piece. The other sound cards are looking awful nice.
Yeah.
And, and I may be doing some disc-based games to support those, and I might do something to support them. That's to come. But John's Game Master basically does everything I had spec'd out in my research that I was going to do for a game cartridge. Okay, for first round. The only thing he doesn't have is external audio out. Okay. And in these games, that's needed, right now. So, but if I was designing the board, I would have external audio out. But that's pretty much the only, noticeable difference that you would see.
Very cool. So on the horizon, a couple new games from John Strong of Strongware, both of which will be featuring real music on a synthesizer, hardware-based music, anyways, right? So,
well, I'm still waiting on my music designer.
Is that Alan Huffman?
Yes. But he'll get busy back here a little bit.
Yeah.
He's pretty busy with work right now, isn't he? He's still getting caught up.
Yeah, I think he's been, summer's had a lot of things going on with him. And, I've had a lot of things on my side. I have some health issues and everything after the fest that slowed down what I been able to do. And so, I haven't pushed him or anything like that on it. The one game I could probably do the music of, I think I could find tools, I could do it. But he would do a lot better job than I would. Okay? And I think there's also some other people in the community that might step up if Alan's not available to help. But, on the one game, I think Alan's going to do it because he's excited about the game. So, once I get a little bit farther along on it, it'll give him some reason to work on it.
Is that the Handy Andy one, the
yes.
Wreck-It Ralph Fix-It Felix Clone? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that in an earlier interview. I'm looking forward to that game too. I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, I am. I'm kind of excited about it, looking at things. But like I said, it's just been kind of slow, going here.
Mm-hmm.
And work gets busy. You don't spend as much time playing on the computer, etc. So,
the catchphrase of the century is "life happens," right?
Yes, life happens. I walked up at VCF Midwest, and the conversation, going on, and that's happening with Jim Brain on some of his projects. It just happens across the board. And speaking of VCF Midwest, Peter Barlett, who does the M3SI or something, the add-on for the Tandy Model 3 and 4s and Model 1s.
Okay.
He's got a project going for the CoCo that looks quite promising. He's actually plugging into the cartridge port and generating VGA output by reading the data from the cartridge port.
Wow.
Without special drivers, or?
He's got a field programmer gateway, and he's monitoring the signals on the bus and figuring out what's being written to the video area and converting that to VGA.
Wow.
Okay, very unique approach. Okay?
What a helpful little peripheral.
So
right
that
there.
would be a non-soldering, non-taking apart your CoCo solution. You just plug in a cartridge and go, right?
Right. Okay. And I posted on the chat line or the Skype chat, a picture of it. People asked a whole bunch of questions, but even Peter doesn't know where he's going exactly yet with this. But he is supposed to be at Tandy Assembly and so hoping to have more done on it. So,
now, do you know, is this CoCo 1 and 2 only, or is this CoCo 3 as well?
He doesn't. He's having some issues with doing the CoCo 3 stuff yet, but he's planning on CoCo 3.
Cool.
And Myro and others were helping him at the show.
Very cool.
And so finding things that worked or broke it, so he can look to fix it. And so it's an interesting project. It's a totally different approach, and the fact that he has all the other stuff that he's done for the Tandy Model 3 and 4 and such. I think he has internet connection and different things like that. They use a compact flash connection and everything from hard drive and stuff. So it'd be very interesting to see what he comes up with. Another alternative out there, but
Yeah, that's a neat project.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that one. If you can get it working off the cartridge board with no wires, soldering, anything else, you're taking your case apart.
Especially if he designs the cartridge so it acts like a pass-through, so you can plug another cartridge into it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, wishful thinking.
Yeah. I don't know where he's going at with that. But he's at very early stages of it, and people on the Skype, I said, well, you asked him any questions, because there's no answers yet.
Right.
That's kind of the problem. Sometimes we have to back off. We see a new project, we have all these ideas, and we got to give the inventor, the creator, some space.
Sure.
And
not encourage the feature creep things so it never gets released.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so that's kind of the thing. That he has a history of releasing some good products, and so it's I think it's very exciting. Okay, because Neil was playing with it. I think Farfall broke it. Okay, but
semi-graphics.
So so we'll see what comes of it, but it'll be I just hate I'm missing Tandy Assembly, because I think there's going to be a lot of neat, interesting things going on there, I believe.
I'd like to, if you're in pretty good contact with him, is maybe once he gets far enough along the project to be comfortable to do so, if you can maybe get him to come on as a guest on the show and talk about it. It's too early now, but
yeah, I just really met him. But I might be able to further the contact with him, because I talked to him about, possibly doing a case for his other projects. And I know there's a design out there, but I prefer to print my own designs, rather than somebody else's. And then I can actually design it to match my machine. And there's variations on the 3D printing, printers, that it may be a great design for one printer, but isn't printing on the other. So, and I have, was given permission by the designer of the case for his stuff to make those. I would prefer my own design. Not because his design is bad, I just rather have it mine.
Sure. That makes sense.
No criticism of his design, nothing like that.
Nope, none taken.
Yeah, so. But, it was, VCF was kind of interesting. I had a small show up for my game programming. It was kind of generic because we had, multiple systems there. But I did have one guy who was a seminar who actually came and bought a copy of one of my discs of games to run on the emulator after hearing my talk. So that was cool.
Very cool, yeah.
And had a talk with a couple other people that was suddenly kind of like, oh, I know a lot more about the color computer now than we did before.
Was there many color computer users there or on display? Or
it was, Neil and Myro and let's see,
that's a little bit of a journey for Neil to come down from Canada.
Yes,
too, huh?
Yes, and
some dedication.
3 or 4 others, okay, that was there.
Jim Brain?
Jim Brain was there, of course. Jim O'Keefe. Trying to remember all the names. Being sick, it makes you're slow in remembering things.
That's fine. It's good to see that we were represented.
The guy who did Flood It. Okay.
Evan Wright.
Evan Wright. Okay.
Okay.
And John Mark Mobley was there.
Okay.
And Ron Klein showed up. He didn't have a booth.
Okay.
And I think a couple others, showed up without booths there. Okay. So we had a fair representation there. It could have been a little bit better, but it's grown a little bit. And, so people know that we're there and looking at it. And I really think, the Tandy Assembly, people going to Midwest, VCF Midwest, it's probably a part of an incentive for Peter Barrett to, if I'm getting his name right, okay? It could be Bartlett. So if I've got it wrong, I apologize. And
it's quite all right.
It's one of the reasons he's doing the stuff for the CoCo.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but I just have that feeling. So I think it's good. People are hearing about it. Getting some interest, because I did have some, people who stayed quite a while at my booth talking, asking questions and so on. So, surprised that we had MIDI, and I said, "Oh yeah, we've had MIDI for a long time."
Oh yeah. Well, let me just acknowledge a few people who have joined us in chat that I haven't been able to say hi to, and I'm sorry for interrupting you there, John.
But, sure.
Grant Leedy has joined us, and Grant, is part of our panel. And but Grant also mentioned he's also not feeling well, so he's got some sick voice issues going on. So hello, Grant, in the live chat, and hello, Norlander, in the live chat as well, who also just subscribed to the new channel. So if you guys are watching us on the new channel, please subscribe here too, because this is the official Color Computer YouTube channel. Look forward to a lot of new and exciting things coming down the pike from this channel here.
And I also want to just do a quick mention that just from talking to John here and talking about the show, it sounds like Myro, it did catch on.
Myro did catch on. I was thinking it every time he said Myro. Yes, Myro has caught on, and so it's trending. Hashtag Myro forever. Well, we are certainly glad to have you back amongst us, Mr. John Strong. Your contributions, not only to our computer over the years, but to our little program here, have been invaluable. So we're certainly glad to have you back here with us, and hope you're feeling better. And hope, David Ladd was getting over being sick. I was sick a little while ago. It's going around, right? Grant says, I've got the David Ladd bug.
Yes. It's floppy related.
It's floppy related. How many sectors are in that bug?
Do you really want to know?
Oh, well, we'll come back and hear some more of that, but let's get a few other people. Matter of fact, before we go around the room some more, let's take a quick commercial break because we're already at 20 minutes into the show. So we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll go around the room here for some more people, and then we're going to definitely catch up more with John Strong as the show is. Do you have time to hang out with us for a little while today, John?
Yeah, I'm going to try for a little while.
Okay.
And I probably will leave before the show is completely over.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm still pretty weak, and got some stuff need to be done today. So,
and I think what we need to refer to as of right now, for those of us who are sick, and if we are part of the color computer community, we don't just have any bug, we have the mega bug. We gotcha. So, for those of you who are sick, you're suffering from the mega bug. We gotcha. Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back, people.
Greetings, YouTubers. Atari Leaf here, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me. It's Original Gamer Stevie Stroh. You know, gameplay. To get your copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD today, head on over to 8bit256.com. There you will find several DVDs featuring color computer gameplay videos by the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh. So to get your very own copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD, head on over to the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com and tell them the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh sent you.
Hi, it's Glenn Hewlett. I'm here at the CoCo Fest 2017, and you're watching Original Gamer Stevie Stroh.
And speaking of CoCo music, there was a little bit of music there for you from Moon Shuttle. And yes, the CoCo made music, but the CoCo in its day needed to rely on the processor and the digital to analog converter. And so it was a task for the CoCo to make music. So one of the things we have been talking about on CoCoTALK and on our interviews and on the CoCo Crew podcast is the whole idea of adding legitimate sound hardware to the color computer, adding actual synthesizers that not only increase the quality and variety of the sound that's being made, but to free up the processor of the system, which is what other game systems had on there. So that's great. So we're back. And so we just heard a little bit from John Strong, who we hope to hear more from throughout the show. Before we started, Barry Nelson, you were mentioning that, and by the way, in the live chat too, we've just been joined by Richard Cavell, our friend from across the pond in the jolly UK. Feel free to call in on Skype if you'd like, Richard. But Barry, you were mentioning that you had an update from Mr. Retro Innovations, Jim Brain himself. You want to share that with us?
Well, it appears that Jim is working on a GIME chip plug-in that plugs into the GIME chip socket, and the GIME chip then plugs into this device, and it acts as a 2 megabyte memory expansion.
Oh, yeah.
And he's been developing that, and that will basically perform, pretty much the same as some of the previous 2 meg RAM expansions for the Color Computer 3.
That's cool. Yeah, we're
and no soldering required.
No soldering required. No hacking to the legs of your processor or anything like that, huh?
Yep. No soldering wires or jumpers, which a lot of the previous solutions. Yeah, a lot of the previous solutions for adding 2 megs of RAM required soldering wires to the board, and this one does not. It just plugs into the GIME socket.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool. Yeah, it's cool. I do have one question about that maybe also Bill Nobel can speak to as well. But I've asked this question before on the CoCo. Is memory? So if you've got a 2 meg, is that the same thing as having 512? And will software written for 512 CoCo work on a 2 meg CoCo? And I believe I've been told before the answer is typically a generic yes. However,
generally.
Generally,
99% yes.
But I did read something on Roger Taylor's Facebook page on the CoCo Nano that Popstar Pilot would not run on his 2 meg implementation of the CoCo Nano. And I don't know if that's just because it's new hardware or if this is a potential thing that some software under some circumstances won't work on 2 megs because it only expects 512. So I don't know if anybody can maybe give us...
I've experienced that as well. And so I had a conversation recently with Jim about this device that he's producing, and it will have a way of disabling the 2 meg expansion, so that for software that only works with 512K, that gets confused when it has 2 megs of memory, there'll be a way of basically shutting off the extra memory and making it appear as a stock 512K color computer.
Yeah, and as far as compatibility goes, there's the only 2 things that usually cause any issues is if you're moving your video RAM outside the regular 512K. The disto board, for example, had a special register. You would set, which 512K bank it was coming through, and it would wrap within a bank. You couldn't cross banks over. So that was one thing you had to be careful of. And the other thing is that the original upgrades had it so that they were write-only registers for doing anything past 512K. So if you tried to read it back, like if you wrote some registers to set up your MMU and then you tried to read them back later on, and the Sierra games originally did this, like King's Quest 3 and Leisure Suit Larry, which is why they didn't work properly either, originally until they were patched, because they tried to read the register back and it'll only give you the lower 6 bits. So it'll only return as if it's 512K, but if you had your program running up in 1 meg, 2 meg, that's not where it is. So the game would get totally lost trying to map stuff in that wasn't right and crash. So that's the 2 main incompatibilities.
Jim's solution should be able to actually read the full register back properly.
Yeah, which means we shouldn't have to patch a lot of those.
Okay.
Although you still may have to patch some of them because some of them have code in to discard the upper bits on the GIME when it reads them, because those bits are not defined and they can return garbage bits there. So some software will have stuff in that masks off those upper bits when it reads it. So you might have to remove or no-op out the mask to get it to work.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I understood some of those words that came out of your mouth, but that's cool. So it looks like it looks like this is an issue. It's a known issue, and there are some potential workarounds for it. But the percentage of things that are affected by this is probably relatively small.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my plan is to work with Jim, and so the board will come up probably. I'm going to suggest that the board come up in 512K compatibility mode.
And you can turn it on or unlock it or something.
Right, and then if you're running OS-9, we'll have a command or a driver or something that will unlock it for OS-9 to see 2 megs. And if you're running BASIC, there'll just be a command that you run that will unlock it to bring up the full memory.
Okay, somebody needs to grab that phone. It might be important.
Yeah, I heard it.
Nitro 9 should be pretty easy to patch. You just should have to patch the REL module when it first boots and relocates and kicks in native mode, etc.
Why don't we just run a firmware update and flash the BIOS on the CoCo and take care of it that way?
Well, then you got to desolder the ROM chips. And we're back to soldering again. What are you doing?
I'm not even going to touch that one.
David,
there's nothing wrong with unsoldering anything. Come on.
and Barry, I also want to say I do appreciate seeing your updates on the Color Computer mailing list, where you do share your little stories of your family gaming night where you and your daughters play Color Computer games. That's pretty cool, and it's nice to see that. A few people have posted some pictures too of like parents and kids playing together on a TRS-80 system. I saw somebody showing a picture of like a Model 1 doing a similar thing. So that's cool. I'm glad your kids are into the CoCo and you guys are enjoying it as a family. It's actually pretty cool. It's very cool actually. So thanks for sharing those with us.
Well, Barry, I have to mention it by the looks of how often you get beaten by your kids. I think you have to practice more.
And Simon Jonassen, the madman, has just joined us. Hello, Simon.
How's Davey?
I'm still recovering from my eyes and ears that have been melted. My brain had been melted and was dripping out of my sides of my head by watching Simon's videos because he's overclocked my brain's capacity to understand the universe when I look into the plasma effects of his demos, and it's pretty cool stuff.
We ain't done yet, matey. We ain't done yet.
And also with us in the call, Richard Lorbieski, who we will be seeing at Tandy Assembly in 2 weeks from now. It's hard to believe Tandy Assembly is going to be here in 2 weeks. And so anything else you can share with us on what we can expect to see from you or what you're looking forward to doing at Tandy Assembly or seeing or hearing and stuff like that?
Oh, I've been busy making cables for the HDMI conversion. I was trying to release them on the 15th, but work has been place at work has been very, very busy. So
yes.
I'm just going to wait till Tandy Assembly and just sell them there.
I have one wish, and that wish was that somehow all of us CoCo enthusiasts did not have the financial burdens of having to struggle with these job things, and we could just focus on what's really important and make CoCo stuff for the world to enjoy. That is my one wish for the universe, and somehow we'll figure out a way to make that happen. But in the meantime,
that's part of my lottery retirement savings plan.
I'd love to do that too. It's just that right now, since we have the two hurricanes in Florida and in Houston, and then of course we had the earthquake in Mexico, we have a lot of our customers in those areas, and we have just been extremely busy with repairs. And so,
because Mexico just had the third quake too. So,
yeah, we have an office. It's not in Mexico City, but we have it's north of Mexico City, and they've been busy. So we've been taking up the slack as well.
And Karen Anscombe is with us in the live chat. Sixie, Karen, creator of XRoar, greatest emulator for the Color Computer 1, 2, and Dragon. And Sixie says, yes, we need universal CoCo income.
So that HDMI, is that based on my RGB to SCART to HDMI?
Oh, yes, I forgot to mention. Yeah, it is based on Barry's design. I just made a couple of little enhancements. The sound portion of it is not hardwired into pin 7 of the RGB connector. I have those external, so you can hook them up to the audio port on the back of the CoCo, or you can hook them up to like a Orchestra 90 card or something like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay, and are you getting the sync signal from the composite line, or?
Yes. I haven't modified that. The only modification I did was I increased the resistance to 180 ohms instead of the 100 ohm because there's some designs that call for that, and so.
Okay. I know
it seems to work. So.
Yeah, the voltage there is, it just needs to be within a certain range. There was one person that was working on a design that they actually stuck in a small voltage regulator there to lock it at 2 volts.
Right. I was actually going to do that, but I was like, this is too much trouble, so I just put the resistor in there, and it works just fine. So.
Well, let's see. If you put about three silicone diodes in series. That would be about 1.8 volts of voltage drop. Yeah,
right.
You always do something like that.
Yeah, there's.
I was going to say, wouldn't it be easier to throw in a flux capacitor there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's get that cable up to 1.21 gigawatts, and boom, all your problems are solved.
But then all your software would run backwards.
Yeah, you got to get your CoCo up to 88 miles per hour before that thing kicks in too. So.
Yeah, and the other cable I've been working on is I had bought a bunch of the NEC monitors that work at 15 kilohertz, the flat screen monitors, and I've made pass-through cables for that, so it just hooks directly to the monitor itself. You have to align it a little bit, and it's good. It's workable.
I used to have one of those.
Neat.
Are those still available, or are those you have to buy used or old now?
Well, the ones that I came across, they were new in stock, new, fresh in the box, and I got 3 left, and I'll make those available. And then, of course, the cable that goes with it.
Those are really good monitors. I used to use one. They work pretty well. They have a higher dot pitch than the Tandy monitor, if I recall, a sharper picture.
Okay. Yeah, it's not exactly a perfect picture, but it's good because there's just some you see jail bars and things like that, and I might have to modify something on the color computer board itself. So I just haven't had time to really play with it.
What's that you're saying about jail bars or something?
It has in some color modes you can see this jail bars going across on the vertical.
Really?
Yes.
I never had that problem. These are NEC multisinks, or
right? These are the NEC 71Vs.
Oh, 71V. Okay. So that's a modern flat screen that happens to support the 15 kilohertz, if I recall.
Right, it's an undocumented feature of that particular monitor.
I love that term, undocumented feature.
Yeah, it was accidentally discovered, and so people have bought those. They've been buying them for years, but they've been mainly using them for the Amiga because it operates at 24 kilohertz.
Neat.
Yeah, it operates both 15 and 24. Yeah.
Yeah, the NEC I used to have was an old NEC multi-sync CRT monitor. That's the one I was thinking about.
Right. So no.
I haven't seen one of these flat screens that runs at 15 kilohertz and how it works yet.
Right. It's okay, but it's not exactly perfect in 80 column mode, and 40 column it's great, but
cool stuff. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. We're seeing more and more people on Facebook now chiming in that they will be at Tandy Assembly. So I think all indications, if I was to lift up my magic 8-ball, I believe the message I would see is all indications lead to success right now, because I think Tandy Assembly is going to just be, a rocking event. So I'm really looking forward to this one. It's going to be nice to have a new event to go to that's in our wheelhouse. And, and it's going to have a slightly broader audience, and we'll have more things to look at. Not that it's bad to look at a bunch of CoCos, but it's kind of cool, too, to maybe look at some other TRS-80 and Tandy machines out there on the floor as well, and to see the whole family, the extended family. So definitely looking forward to that. You got more stuff for us, Richard? Or are we going to continue to go around the room, or are you good for right now?
Yeah, I guess the only other thing is I'm going to be selling the 6309 processors there really cheap. So if you're looking for some, I'm going to, like I said, it'll...
And you're doing installs too, correct?
Yes, and I will do installs.
Okay.
Have you got a price set for
that? To install it, $30. That includes the processor and everything.
Parts and labor?
Parts and labor.
You're a cheap date. Wow.
Yes.
That's cool. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll take a head count of how many CoCos I have that already have the labels broken, and I'll just pick up one for each CoCo, and I'll put 6309s in my CoCo 1s and 2s as well, just for grins and giggles. David Ladd says we should have universal OS-9 income as well. So yeah, any type of universal income for CoCo enthusiasts would definitely be appreciated. If we can get the world leaders to come together and work on that.
You should get 100% tax breaks for that too.
Yes. If we could just have our, basic living expenses covered and not have to focus on that, and we can then focus on making CoCo great again, the world would definitely be a better place. So, very cool stuff. Well, we look forward to that. Bill Nobel, how are you today, sir?
Pretty good.
I noticed. I don't know if you're able to switch to camera view and show us your shiny new mug, but I noticed you posted a picture of your new CoCoTALK mug, and it looks quite elegant, sir, I must say. Speaking of our Back to the Future references, it is kind of a stainless steel DeLorean-looking drinking vessel, and it's very cool. And so for those of you, if you can't see Bill's, I'm not sure if Bill will be able to show his, but here is the regular CoCoTALK mug, which shameless plug you can get at our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. But it's metal. So Bill got the one that actually looks like stainless steel or brushed steel. It's a very cool effect. I like the way that looks. He put a picture of it in a Skype call. Of course, I didn't get a chance to. Maybe later I'll pull it up and show it. But yeah, that mug looks cool. I like it. I use this mug a lot. Forget the fact that it says CoCoTALK on it. It's a good mug. It keeps your coffee hot. It keeps cold things cold. I travel with this all the time, so I love my mug. I'm looking forward to it.
It's a double layer insulated, isn't it?
Yeah, double layer. So you got the inner chamber keeps your beverage whatever temperature that is, and the outer chamber
I'm gonna have to order 2 of those here at the end of the month.
it keeps hot stuff hot too, huh? And does that mean you can put hot
Quite
cocoa
nicely,
in it?
actually.
Yeah, I'm drinking my coffee right now. Hot cocoa in your CoCoTALK mug. Yeah. Yeah.
And Cocoa Puffs if you want something cold.
Cocoa Puffs. I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Anything new in the world of projects for you, Bill Noble? You working on anything new with OS-9 or the Coco Nano project or anything?
Not too much lately. Been kind of busy with work, but I
There
did
goes
actually.
that W word again.
Yeah. But I did come across an actual source code disassembly of one of the Williams arcade games called Robotron.
Oh, neat.
That I've been looking at.
Neat. Glenn Taylor just joined us in the live chat. Hey, Glenn Taylor, good afternoon to you. And by the way, because this is a brand new channel, make sure you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button while you're watching live because all new Coco content will be showing up here. Yeah, that would be really cool. The more arcade games we can get running on the Coco, we've seen these transcodes and a lot of the Williams stuff, what was written for the 6309, so there's less code conversion, now just more like subsystem emulation that needs to take place for some of the graphics, audio and video chips and stuff, right?
Well, the one thing I have noticed so far is I don't know how Williams actually did this, but they actually have their source code looking to be fully object-orientated.
Really?
Yes.
So they had some other type of development tool set to create object-oriented code?
It looks that way, yes.
Wow. And you can tell that by looking at the code?
Yeah, and it's actually not that difficult to follow either.
Okay. You've been spending a lot of time in the Matrix, my friend. That is cool. That is so cool. Look forward to seeing more things like that. Even just to have that stuff posted somewhere where you can look at it. I don't know if that's violating a copyright at this point. I mean, there's so much stuff floating around out there. But it'd be a cool thing, like, Glenn Hewlett's posting his blog about assembly language optimizations. If we could look at source code and see how people have written assembly language code for the 6809 as just a reference and a historical marvel, that would be kind of cool to see. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but Rick Adams has joined us a minute or two ago. Hello, welcome, Rick Adams. Speaking of people we haven't had on the show in a while, it's great to have you back too, Rick Adams.
Hello, I'm kind of here.
Okay, and welcome to CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer. And great to have you. And now, of course, we're making our way around here. We're looking at the very handsome debonair David Ladd, who has also had a little bit of the mega bug. And so, Are you getting over your mega bug, David Ladd?
I was.
You were.
We got you.
Jeez.
That's the official term now. Whenever a color computer enthusiast is sick now, we've got the mega bugs.
Yeah, and then you have to play Microscopic Mission to try to get rid of it.
There you go. Or microbes to shoot out all the infections there. Oh, that's actually a great new. That's actually a really good Coco game. We can tie all this together. We can have Coco colonoscopy, where we can fly around and shoot out polyps.
Yeah, or if you want to even go smaller, you can bring up Adam. Go down to the molecular level.
There you go. The hits keep coming, folks.
I'm just glad the Coco 3 doesn't have VGA style graphics for your colonoscopy game.
Grant Leedy says, "Oh God." We're getting some face palms and groans in the audience out there now. So
that's a normal episode.
Yeah, but Steve, that's because everybody's getting to the age of the colon
Yes,
stuff.
we do need the Coco colonoscopy kit at home, where we the at-home colonoscopy kit.
Now, is that SCART compatible or
SCART compatible? Oh man. Oh. So what's new in your world, David? I know you've mentioned you've had to redo your PC. You're going through the Windows 10 woes, which I have had to do a handful of times recently. So that's always a fun time suck, right?
Yeah, I kind of put the downloads on pause so that you could actually hear me while we're on the
That's why if I had 8 hours of billable time for every time I've had to spend 8 hours of my life redoing my Windows 10 setup, I could probably buy some nice hardware right now. So, any projects you've been working on? Anything you've been breaking or fixing or getting accolades for lately?
No, haven't really broken anything unless, of course, you call putting off reinstalling Windows until it finally decided
you broke your PC. David has broke his PC, right? Or you're fixing your PC then.
Yes, Windows. usually Windows should be reinstalled about every year, but
yeah,
I've never cleanly installed it since the upgrade from Windows 7, so it just
time.
Yeah, decided to say, I want you to reinstall me because I ain't letting you in anymore.
Right.
I haven't. I've got some machines here I haven't reinstalled in a few years. I've upgraded them, etc.
Yeah.
I've gone in and given them the computer version of a colonoscopy a few times though.
Reg clean.
Yes. It seems like Windows 10 is it's a decent operating system, but if you've upgraded to it, it has emotional baggage that comes back to haunt you over time. And I've even had it to the point where I've done clean installs, and I've had to clean install a second or third time before it would finally work consistently. So yeah, I've 4 times I've put Windows 10 on my computer, and I think the 4th time was a charm right now for the moment anyway. So.
And Nick complains about Nitrous 9.
All right, David. Well, you had the mega bug, so you didn't get a chance to break too much. You had computer challenges, so we'll let you slide this week without having a lot to report there. So you got your pass. And
I don't know. I think there's someone that had a topic that they wanted for the discussion later, so we'll probably still have something.
Oh, did we? Who was that?
Richard.
Oh, that was Richard. Okay, Richard did say
that
he had
was
some
me, the
questions.
SDC card and DriveWire,
Yeah,
but
there you
we can
go.
do that later.
All right. And Rick Adams, legendary game designer. What's the thing called? The Raspberry Pi LED aficionado himself is here with us too. What's new and exciting in your world, Rick Adams?
Well, I got to help poor John Strong with his LEDs, or else he's going to be in trouble. He says his wife is asking, "What is this for?" So we got to get those working so that she knows,
if he watched your keynote, he would know the answer was, "Oh, these are Christmas lights, honey."
Christmas lights, yes, that's it. Christmas lights.
We got them early so we can do them for Halloween too.
Yeah, right. It's multi-purpose. Yeah, it's ironic. That display you've made now that shows the Tandy Assembly screen and it shows the bomb threat moving back and forth stuff. It's a really, really impressive display, and it's large and it's pretty and it's shiny and stuff. But the amount of money you sunk into it, could you not have just gotten a big old HDMI television and just put it up on a TV?
I'm sure I could have.
But that's not a project.
It wouldn't have been as much fun.
Yes, it wouldn't have been a project.
I find it funny, too, because back in, Bill, you can remind me when this was the late 80s, early 90s, you actually did a project on a CoCo running LED lights for a company down in Moose Jaw, didn't you?
That was out of Alfred, the guy. He actually had chained together some actual commercial lights that actually did a sign, and I had it being controlled by CoCo through an RS-232.
Yeah, I remember you working on that project.
Very, very cool. So, do you have any updates for us on Bomb Threat, the cartridge? That we know it's going to be in a cartridge. We've seen the cartridges. We know it's there.
Yep. And it will be at the show.
It will be at the show. I'm looking forward to that.
So it's kind of like I'm not doing anything on Bomb Threat anymore, it's a weird feeling. It's like it's consumed my life for 3 or 4 months, and now there's nothing to do. So
nothing to do now but sell it and rake in the cash, right?
Oh yeah, rake it in. Yeah, I'll be buying a couple of Whopper meals with all that money. So that'll be awesome.
You're looking forward to somebody saying, "Would you like fries with that?"
Yeah, exactly. So you say, why didn't you just get a big display and you don't have to do all these hundreds of LEDs. And it's like, well, the answer is, if I did that, nobody would be coming up and going, "Holy cow, how did you do that?"
Exactly. That's true. That's 100% true. Right. How did you plug in that television, Rick Adams? Do tell. That's a fascinating project.
Not just anybody can plug in a television.
That's true, and it is a cool project, and you're literally making something yourself too. So there's something cool about that. Very, very cool stuff. And then we'll get back to Simon in just a second. So we've gone around the room. We are going to take another quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and look at some feedback and things like that, and we'll go on with more of the show. So don't go anywhere. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll be back in 2 and 2.
Let the Radio Shack TRS-80 put the world of color computing into your home. Instant loading program packs turn any color TV into an exciting game arcade. And there's more. The color computer is an educational aid, a home management tool, and up-to-the-minute electronic information service. The programmable, expandable TRS-80 color computer from $399 only at Radio Shack, the biggest name in little computers.
Hi, I'm Mike Rowan, and you're watching the original gamer, Stevie Stroh. And when you're done watching, come over and listen to the CoCo Crew podcast.
What's going on, everybody? The original gamer Stevie Stroh here, and I want to talk to you about I'mACoconut.com. If you love the color computer like I love the color computer, then you got to visit I'mACoconut.com, your one-stop shop for all of your Tandy color computer links needs. There you'll find links to blogs and podcasts and project sites and emulators and downloads and groups and communities. If you love the color computer, head on over to I'mACoconut.com. That's IMACoconut.com. Tell them the original gamer Stevie Stroh sent you. Coco forever, people.
It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
This year, I needed to give a real family pleaser.
Honey, please, help me with this budget.
How about a new game, Dad? Please?
And I found it. Radio Shack's Color Computer 2. On sale for just $99.95. It entertains, educates, manages, it's expandable, and affordable. Now that really pleases me.
The Color Computer 2. Sale price for Christmas. Only at Radio Shack.
I'm Evan Wright, author of Flooded for the Color Computer, and you're listening to original gamer Steve Stroh.
And we're back after a word from our sponsors, and Bosco has joined us in the live chat. Steve Bamford. Welcome, Steve Bamford.
Hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet?
Have you got your CoCo 3 yet, Steve Bamford? That's the question that we want to know. And we're back with CoCoTALK Live. We're episode 27. We've passed the 6-month mark. And then last but not least, Simon Jonassen. We're going to show off some of your demos in a little bit. But other than the obvious demos that we're going to show, what else you want to talk to us about lately, what you've been doing in the world of retro computing to make the world a better place?
Me? I'm just trying to put this demo together for Assembly.
Yeah.
So it's a case of taking old stuff, making it faster, putting it with the music, packing it. It's going to be multi-part in 64K.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. And we'll show some of those clips. You've been putting stuff out there on Facebook, and it's literally mind-blowing stuff. So I would caution all of you to make sure you put on your tinfoil helmets and put the black electrical tape over all the cameras on your devices and things like this, because you will have a lot of infusion coming into your world when you watch these videos. So very cool stuff. Very, very cool. We're really, it's always exciting for me to go to the Facebook page or go to the mailing list and see what's new and exciting and what people are doing with the color computer. So let's do just some feedback and announcements. And we got a really good, we got a really nice letter too from Brendan Donahue. He wrote an email recently, just some feedback, thanking us for doing the show. And Brendan Donahue was basically saying, I don't have time to watch on Saturdays, and I don't always have time to watch a video, but I've really enjoyed being able to listen to CoCoTALK in podcast format And so he's enjoyed that. So he wrote a little email. So I want to thank Brendan for that feedback. He also said, thank you for mentioning my projects, which, that's what we do. So, so that was kind of cool to hear that. Now, last week's CoCoTALK episode 26 right now has 156 views, and that's pretty much on par. We seem to average about 100 to 200 views per week, which is really impressive, honestly, due to the obscurity of what we're talking about. The fact that this many people watch this, it's really, really impressive, right? Before that, the episode 25 Hurricane Irma edition got about 163 views. The little segment of Nick in Australia, that got 100 views. CoCoTALK 24, 181 views. 23 has gotten 200 views. So you can see here that the show is consistently being watched by people, and I certainly appreciate that. So for everybody who watches, I definitely want to say thank you for watching. Our podcast numbers right now, we are at 1,562 downloads to the audio episode, so that's a respectable number too. We have not quite reached the 2-month mark, so that's pretty good. Right now watching us, we've got 14 people watching us live. That's certainly not bad. I want to let you guys all know that, yes, CoCoTALK has a website, which is where you can go to get to things. So the website is just called CoCoTALK.live. And from CoCoTALK.live, you'll be able to watch all the previous episodes. They're compiled in a playlist. You can click on a link to get to the podcast. I want to point some things out to you on the sidebar here, too. So we recently opened up a Patreon page, which you can get to as well if you want to support our endeavors and make an ongoing monthly contribution. That is there. I've created a Facebook page for CoCoTALK that we will be sharing information on and sharing the event to remind people when we're live. I've just added CoCoTALK to LinkedIn, and I've gotten some pretty good feedback already on that, because this is a legitimate thing that we're doing. Even though we're having fun and we're talking about a vintage system, podcasting is a legitimate industry, and I believe our show is a legitimate show. So there is a LinkedIn company profile for CoCoTALK, and if you guys are members of the show, I would encourage you all to go there and add yourself as an employee of CoCoTALK, because technically you are. You're not getting paid, and it's not going to mean you're going to get a paycheck all of a sudden, but you're a part of something which I think is something special. So if you watch our show, I would say maybe do us a favor and go over to LinkedIn and follow that page and maybe write us a little review there saying that you enjoy the show. So there'll be a link to that on our CoCoTALK page. And there you have it. So CoCoTALK Live is a thing. What's going on in the world of the color computer Facebook group right now? Well, it looks like Ed Snyder's up to some shenanigans right now. So it looks like Ed's drawing some pictures and some circuit boards and some logical diagrams here. So you never know what's going to come out of the mind and the soldering bench of Ed Snyder. So that looks kind of interesting. This is a picture that somebody just posted recently, Patrick Ewing. Now that sounds like a guy who was in a movie, TV show or something. Doesn't that sound like a celebrity name, Patrick?
There was a Patrick Ewing who was a star player for the NBA's Nets.
Yeah. Now this is an impressive setup. If you look at this now you look at this today, you're thinking, holy 1970s Batman. But I mean, that's a big ass TV there. The Sony television. He's got a CoCo, double floppy drives. He's got a modem here, speakerphone, a printer over here. If you had to add up what all that equipment costs, and he's even got some price tags on here, there's probably $2,000 worth of equipment on these two shelves here. And today, $2,000 is a lot of money. And in the 80s, $2,000 was a heck of a lot more money. So honestly, and look at the VHS tapes he's got going on here too. I mean, this was just nothing but multimedia goodness here.
The most impressive part of that for me was the custom desk that the keyboard had actually recessed into.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, I didn't realize that. That's a cutout where the CoCo's underneath there. That is pretty impressive. So here's the other picture. Here's another picture here of family computing. So this looks like a Model 3 or 4, and it looks like, we got some family members and some youngins playing too. I love to see stuff like that when you get the young kids playing on the old systems. That's always good stuff here. Here's some TRS-80 stuff here posted by Brian Taylor. So here, speaking of Simon Jonassen, let's go ahead and zoom in on this right here. So this is one of Simon's infamous fire displays. We've seen this before in an interview we had a while ago, but this looks really good. The animation is very, very fluid, very smooth, very hypnotic. The amount of color that we have going on there is great. And not only do we have the animated flames, but we've got background music going with it too. So that's a pretty cool demo there, Simon. And Nick Marentes just joined us from Australia. G'day, Nick. How are you?
G'day, everyone.
We haven't had Nick on in a little bit. Nick has been busy too, so we'll get back to you in a minute. Nick, thanks for joining us. So that's pretty cool. Right. Nice little display there. Here's another one of Simon's demos. And Simon, did you want to comment on this at all about what you did to make these fanning flames here?
The flames are actually too slow at the moment.
Yeah. I'm
trying to speed that up with the music, because music is taking like 50% of your CPU time.
Yeah, well, if you want to compare it to a real flame, I would say, okay, maybe it's a little slow, but honestly, just as a display, I find it to be both soothing and hypnotic, too. So,
it's not quite fast enough for the demo, but I'm working on it. If you grab the vector, that's very fast, but that's still not fast enough, because my good friend Sockmaster thinks, well, yeah, okay, you can get 80% more CPU out of that.
Wow, it's hard to imagine, huh? So this is the latest vector right here?
Yeah, with the 2 ones.
Okay, let's get the music back. I'm going to lower the music just a little bit. I'm not sure how it's coming through on the live. Yeah, it's really impressive. I love that SID sounding music too. That kind of reminds me of a Commodore 64 and an Amiga.
That's my good friend Utz from the 1-bit ZX Spectrum scene. He's the brilliance behind the music.
Yeah. Grant Leedy says hello to Nick. He says, we've missed your OS-9 rants, Nick.
I mean OS-9 praise, or is this, who's on? Is it Nick Marentes or Nick Marentes? Yeah, I wasn't sure which Nick.
So this plasma display is one of my favorites. Now, it's really hard to not appreciate how much technology and how much coding has to go into making all this stuff happen when you've only got one CPU to do it all. The CPU has to do the math, has to do the graphic rendering, has to be generating the digital to analog conversion for the sound, and to keep the frame rates and the double buffering and not the flickering and stuff. There's so much sorcery and science and voodoo black magic going on here that it's really easy to take this for granted by saying, yeah, dude, my Xbox sounds a hell of a lot better than that. But this is really impressive stuff. And as impressive as, to me, I love the wireframe and I love the vector graphics, I'm a sucker for a plasma display too. And this is my personal favorite of all yours, Simon, is these plasma guys here. So let's go ahead and fire him up real quick. Song sounds a little familiar.
Yeah. That song is 5 minutes long.
That's a 5-minute tune. Okay, I got you.
You're only getting 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's very hypnotic.
So, like I said, the song is actually 5 minutes long. So you're only getting 20-second snippets, because I'm not going to give it all until assembly.
Right. Here's one of Barry Nelson's postings showing Castleguard. Tonight's game of the evening was 2 games. First, we played more Arkanoid. I actually got the high score this session, although I didn't beat my daughter's previous score. And then we played Castleguard. I actually won one of the 3 games. So, not bad, Barry. This one I thought was really cool. There was a time in history when Tandy and Radio Shack had these literally comic books, right? So what were they called? The TRS-80 Whiz Kids, right? Yep. And so it was a comic book series, and it was just the thing, give out a comic book to the kids and maybe they'll buy a computer. And of course, strategically placed within the stories were the kids and the TRS-80 computers. And somehow, in this situation here, the color computer ended up saving the day. And you can see here Wonder Woman and Superman praising these kids and praising the color computer for stopping the evil Lex Luthor, which was pretty, you think about it now, it's kind of a cheesy, crowbar-y product placement type thing. But, that still happens today, but it's kind of cool. Now, this looks like an original drawing before it went off to print, because you see a bunch of handwriting on the image here, right? Kurt Swan was the artist, I guess. So the artist who drew this must have a Facebook page too. This one's got some penciling on it, and you can see some handwritten things. So this looks like what was probably inked before it was, sent off to be colored and stuff. So that's actually would be kind of a cool collectible to have that.
Yeah, Kurt Swan was actually one of the most famous artists for Superman for decades.
Ah, okay. Very cool. Yeah,
and
so
I'll have to dig in my comic collection downstairs when I get some time here, but I think I might even still have some of the original WizKids comic books, so I have to bring one up to
I would love to have some. I mean, now, of course, for nostalgia reasons, I would love to have some, Yeah, so
I would have to say that's the largest color computer I've ever seen.
Yeah, right? And look at the size of that key, too. What kind of lock does that thing go in? So, yeah, here's Bruce Moore showing off the picture of his Forest of Doom strategy guide. And I don't know if Bruce is going to join us today, but he was basically saying that now when he's not going to be necessarily selling the game, but he'll be selling the book. And if you buy the book, you'll get a link to download the Forest of Doom game, which has been his project. And so this was one he produced for himself as a proof. And I guess somebody wanted to have that as a collectible, to have the first ever Forest of Doom book. And so that's kind of cool, right? So he sold his proof to a collector. Ed Snyder.
Steve, just to interject briefly here, I've noticed a couple messages flying by in the live chat. Apparently, the regular YouTube channel is showing the wrong chat.
The regular YouTube channel,
like not the new CoCo one.
I'm looking at the live chat right now. I see Grant Leadich. Hold on the. Oh, hold on. Oh, I see what you're saying here in the live stream here. That is wrong, huh? Okay.
Yeah. You're getting a lot of spam.
I'm getting a lot of spam, huh? Okay. Well, that's gone. Interesting. Thanks for interjecting, and thanks for letting me know. I wasn't even looking at that. So where do we just go? I got sidetracked. Let me fix that real quick. Let me copy and paste. I updated the chat, and I thought that would automatically get fixed everywhere else. So when I go back to my full screen message right now, we'll go back to where we are, and I'm going to try to paste this. I pasted the wrong thing, I think. Hold on. Thanks.
And folks, this is how the sausage is made.
Yes. All right. So we're going to try this again. We're going to click on YouTube live chat. I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to go back here to my full screen doohickey. And I'm going to hit paste again. Okay, so that one's been fixed. Who knows where else that will show up. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Sidebar chat is from your other channel. When I switch screens, I see that. Thank you, Bosco. All right.
Yeah, Grant and Bosco both were mentioning it. So
okay, thanks, guys.
I'm going to interrupt here a minute and say I'm going to log off here. You guys have a great
couple. All right, John Strong, thanks for joining us.
Later, John.
We'll get to more CoCo Facebook stuff later on. So that was kind of cool just to show some of that stuff off. And now that Nick Marentes is back with us, welcome back, Nick. Good day. Glad to have you back on CoCoTALK. It hasn't been the same without you.
Good day, everyone. I've been very busy the last month. Haven't turned on my CoCo. I forgot what it even looks like lately.
But, you're in the same boat as me.
So, yeah, we've been very busy. We've been trying to sell a house and purchase a house, and I've been doing the quick run around to do repairs and tidy things up before it goes officially on sale, and at the same time negotiating with real estate agents and all the other headaches that go with it. Wow. So yeah, it's just so much happening over the next few months. I'll be glad it's all over, so I can get back to back to OS-9 bashing.
OS-9 bashing. Yes.
Oh, okay. Didn't hear that last syllable.
You gotta be in the right frame of mind to trash something. You can't do it half-heartedly.
I assume there's been a whole lot of OS-9 new programs and projects already started in my absence.
Yes. There's been. It's completely automated and plug and play now. It's a universal app that runs on all firmware and hardware devices. Very cool. Well, welcome back, Nick. We're always happy to have you here. And John Strong, thanks for being here. I think John said he had to go soon. We have to do our tech question here in just a minute. So right before we do our tech segment, we'll go ahead and take one other commercial break, and then we'll come back, and then Richard Lorbieski has a tech question that hopefully some of us will be able to answer. Probably won't be me. All right, so we'll be back here in just a minute, folks.
Hey, have you got your CoCo 3 yet? Hi, this is Rick Adams, author of Temple of Ram and Shanghai, and you've tuned into CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer.
What's going on, everybody? Original Gamer Stevie Stroh here, and if you're a fan of vintage computing and retro gaming, then you're going to love our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. There you will find custom designs by Instagram artist Joel M. Adams. You can get I'm a Coconut, CoCoTALK, and other cool video game images on a t-shirt, coffee mug, or mouse pad. So if you love retro, then head on over to the retro swag shop at 8bit256.com today. Tell them the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh sent you.
Some people have big plans after school. You know what Elliot's going to do? Jeff, too. Elliot's at work on a book report using Scripted on Radio Shack's Color Computer 3. It hooks up to his TV. And Jeff's at his Radio Shack Color Computer 3 playing the newest football game. But wait, what's Elliot doing playing New Super Pitfall? And Jeff's having a blast with a new math tutor. You never know what you might try with more than 100 programs for fun and learning. Radio Shack's Color Computer 3 comes with everything you see here. Other items each sold separately. Only at Radio Shack.
Hi, I'm Alan Huffman of Subbeat the Software. I won an award and I have a cool shirt. And you're watching the Original Gamer do old stuff.
Hey, this is John Strong. Beep, bleep, bleep. Blooper time. You're watching the Original Gamer, Stevie Stroh.
And we're back. We are back to CoCoTALK. After a word from our sponsors, it's good to see that, Radio Shack is still alive and strong in 2017 and still cranking out those commercials and still have plenty of product for us to purchase. I think, when I think of Radio Shack, I think innovation. You have these companies these wannabe companies like Apple who throw crap out there, but Radio Shack has never steered us wrong. They've always produced a quality product for the consumers. So,
yeah, with all the built-in add-ons you wanted right off the start, you didn't have to buy anything extra or add little hacks on.
Deskmate. So good stuff.
Sound speech pack. Anyway,
it seems some of the franchises have managed to survive. That the individual owned stores for Radio Shacks, I've heard that some of them are still open.
Yeah, true. That's ironic, but also fortunate too, right? So they're that is able to happen. All right,
actually, some of them are doing better now that they're not commanded by the mother company anymore either. So,
from what I've heard, most of them are doing better now that they're not commanded by the mother company.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to do Tech Talk, but before we do Tech Talk, because this is a professional show and this is a well-oiled machine and a highly produced show, we're going to have a little infographic here that's going to lead us into Tech Talk. So hold on just a second here.
It's time for Tech Talk with David Ladd and Curtis Boyle. Take it away, tech dudes.
You gotta love that Curtis Boyle guitar riff there, huh? That's our very own color computer rock star Curtis Boyle there cranking out on the guitar. And so Richard has technical questions for us. You got questions, we got answers. There you go. The little Radio Shack slogan there for you. So,
oh boy.
What questions do you have for us today, Richard?
Okay, so what I'm running is I'm finally getting to delve into the really into the CoCo 3, and I have an SDC card, and I have it hooked up to DriveWire 4. I've downloaded all that, and one of the questions I had earlier the week, it was how to make DSK images just straight from the SDC card, but Barry actually gave me a link to his visual hard drive, and I downloaded that and played around with it. But my question is I'm trying to optimize my DriveWire 4. What I like about the DriveWire 4 is you can able to access and get the clock, real-time clock, and it's a lot more accurate. So what I'm trying to do is boot up with the SDC image of Nitrous 09 and then access DriveWire that way. The only way I've got it to work is I downloaded a stock image of Nitrous 9 that was specifically for the DriveWire, and I loaded it up in DriveWire in that virtual drive on my Windows 10. On my SDC card, I mounted it. I did the command. It says, drive 0, I believe #0, which then loaded it up, and I could boot it that way. But what I'd like to do is to mount that image or any image that will boot off the SDC card and then access DriveWire that way.
I can help you with that if you're using my image.
Okay.
If you type load space DriveWire _mods, it won't get you the clock, but it will get you everything else. So you'll have the MIDI, you'll have the DriveWire drives, X0, X1, X2, X3, all of the DriveWire terminal information, all that stuff will load if you load DriveWire _mods. And then you can access, and that will load all the modules in.
Okay, I didn't know that, because when I loaded yours and I just type in DW for DriveWire, I got an error 221 saying module not there. So I just okay, and I looked at the docs documentation for DriveWire 4 and was kind of a little I didn't quite understand it, because it said to mount an image in SDC and then mount the same image in DriveWire and boot it up that way, and it still didn't work out. And that's why I was kind of, again, these are the questions I had.
Yeah, the other thing you can, basically the easiest way to do is boot my SDC image and then load DriveWire _mods. Now, as far as getting the clock working, that's, the problem there is when you boot up, you would have to have the DriveWire modules in your boot already, and I'm not loading them that way because of memory, so I only load them when I need them.
Okay.
I am... one of my projects I've been futzing around with from time is running a little standalone module that accesses the DriveWire clock from and sets the clock based on DriveWire to a non-DriveWire boot.
Okay,
but
so
I don't have that working yet.
Okay, so which modules does DriveWire use in Nitrous 9?
Okay, that would be DWIO.
DWIO.
Yep. Let me get the exact list here for you, because there's actually different ones depending on which CoCo that you're using.
Okay.
Because there's the one for the CoCo 3, one for the CoCo 2, and one for the CoCo 1.
My boot is Nitrous 9 level 2, so he'd be running a CoCo 3, am I right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you can type ident space -s for short, space/dd/cmds/DriveWire _mods, and that'll give you the list of the modules that I've got loaded in my pack there.
Okay.
No, I think Bill did something for me too. Bill had given me a pre-configured OS-9 disk image that I mounted in the CoCoSDC, and it somehow picked up the real-time clock through DriveWire, but I don't know how Bill did that. But as long as I had DriveWire running and I had that hardwired serial cable from my CoCo to my PC, it did pick up the clock. But
it'd be the clock driver module in the boot. If it's set up for the DriveWire one, then it would be using the DriveWire one. The default is just to use the software clock, which is the 60 hertz interrupt, and you have to type in the time by hand.
Which is very, very inaccurate. So,
and that's what mine is currently using. I'll have to look at Bill's to see if I can integrate that into my future images and how he's doing it. That's interesting. Another thing about that image, if I'm recalling it correctly, is that it also has HDB DOS, CoCo RS-DOS partitions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you there's a modified version of HDB DOS, which has the drivers for the CoCoSDC. And if you put that into one of your SDC ROM banks, flash banks, you can run that, and it will behave just like as if you had like a Birkenberg hard drive, etc. And you'll be able to access the virtual CoCo disks and partitions.
That was the other thing about the HD. Is it HDD DOS or HDB DOS?
B.
Okay.
Bravo.
Yeah.
HDB DOS.
Do you actually need that in order to run DriveWire 4, or is that just when you use it for like extended basic?
You can run SDC DOS and mount DriveWire disks. But the thing is, if those DriveWire disks have multiple virtual disks inside them, SDC has some limited support for that. I think it does a pound number, comma, and then another number after it. So you can mount certain specific disks as drives 0 to 3, but you can't do the HDB DOS thing where you have 255 virtual or 256 virtual drives. To do that, you need that. Now the thing about that other ROM, the HDB DOS ROM, is it has the SDC drivers to do to see all of the virtual drives, but it doesn't have the SDC DOS commands to mount and unmount disks. So to do that, you have to go back to SDC DOS, or you have to go into OS-9 and use my SDC utility.
Yeah, I saw that utility, and I thought, hey, that was kind of cool. So,
hold on. I want everybody to hear that right now. Richard Lorbieski just said he found a cool OS-9 utility. Did you hear that, Nick Marentes?
He's lying.
Okay, today is September 23rd. It is 3:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And with the first documented verbalization of a cool OS-9 utility.
Actually, I think Nick's mentioned before that everybody uses OS-9 and Nitrous 9 just for writing utilities. It's just the games that are the problem.
It's the utilitarian operating system.
And another cool thing you can do is after you load the DriveWire mods is you can run XCOM 9 or some other terminal programs and access BBSs over the internet.
That is cool.
Right. Yeah, that was the other thing about the Bitbanger port. What's the baud rate that it's going on? I mean, is it using some kind of magic or disabling?
115 kilobits.
Okay, so it's actually disabling. Yeah. It's just using the straight clock and kind of disabling the timing signal, I guess.
Yep, it basically all interrupts are shut off during the time of the first packet write, and then it waits for a response from DriveWire, and then after it gets the response, then it deals with it and turns the interrupts back on and continues with the operating system.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's a hard-coded, hyper-fast timing loop, and that's used in all 3 versions of the CoCo.
Because I was wondering, he said, why didn't they just use the RS-232 pack instead? And
well, it's because the original RS-232 pack, because of certain handling issues with the 6551, after a certain baud rate, it will lose packets or bytes once in a while. And so really, if you was just cramming data at it as fast as it could take it, you'd be looking at, what was it, 9600 baud or something like
Yeah,
19.2.
Yeah,
yeah, 19.2 was the fact. The short answer is it's slower.
Right.
You can actually talk over the bitbanger port in DriveWire faster than you could the highest baud rate on the RS-232 pack, which would be 19,200. On a CoCo 3, DriveWire actually runs at 115,200 baud.
Right. Yeah, because you could on the RS-232 you can actually replace the crystal and double that to 38,400, but still that's.
Same with our cards. That's the only thing left there.
That's the fucking. I'm leaving there. That's the best.
That would still be several times slower than the 115,200 that the CoCo 3 runs the DriveWire at. So
yeah, now it does severely curtail your multitasking because, as David mentioned, it shuts the fire queues to achieve that speed. I know there were some RS-232 packs by Rick Euland at Connect back in the 90s that actually had the 16550 chip, which is what the PCs use with a 16-byte FIFO, buffer, and those actually would run 115.2 on the CoCo without having to halt. It was almost like a mini disk controller, so that your multitasking still ran smooth. But I don't think those are manufactured anymore, and I don't know if anybody ever wrote a DriveWire driver for it.
Right. Okay. No, I've been looking at other alternatives for the RS-232. I was just wondering about that deal.
Personally, I would love to see something faster that you didn't have to shut off the IRQs for. I know Jim, he was working on some project at the CoCo Fest a couple years ago where he had a 6551A based cartridge that he had it where it would go up to 230k BPS.
Wow.
But I don't know if he's officially released it or what Jim was doing with that. But
Jim just chimed in. He says, "Yep, I do."
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of this stuff is not quite ready for prime time. You have to load special drivers to run it. And the fact of the matter is that DriveWire, because it packetizes the information, so it handles it in small chunks, the interrupts are only shut off for a relatively small period of time. So it really works. It works pretty well, actually.
Yeah, it's almost like a mini no-halt disk controller, because basically you get an IRQ and it says you've got 16 bytes ready, and you just go read it in one shot. And then there's some other chips like 16650s and stuff that actually give you 32-byte FIFOs, etc., so that you could actually get it even faster yet.
Well, I tell you what really impressed me with the speed was running DriveWire over like Wi-Fi or Ethernet with the CoCo Pi, where everything is being done over over a local area network, because then the serial speed goes away. So doing DriveWire over Ethernet is really impressive. And I don't know if there's a physical way. I know these adapter boards exist where you can get like the Bluetooth module that turns into a serial port, and if that could be implemented with DriveWire, you could get faster speeds on real hardware. But in an emulator, DriveWire is really fast.
Well, then my other question is about the serial. Then, if you have DriveWire's clock module, real-time clock module, does that interrupt it? How often does it do it? Does it just
once a minute?
Okay.
Yeah, because I've done this. Because once you start OS-9, it'll be, and you don't have a date set in the startup script, and if you just type date, and I think it's -T to just see what the time is, it'll say 00:00:00, and it will take a minute before the clock 2 module will grab the time and populate it in the main clock module. So it's once a minute it grabs that time. So therefore, that's what? Not that much.
Right.
So
yeah, it's not constantly on. It's just it just interrupts it once a minute, which is fine. Because in the testing that I did on just the stock clock module, it lost about 7 minutes every 12 hours. I mean, it was really bad. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
wow.
It does lose a lot, especially if you're running a real floppy, or if you're running an emulated floppy that actually does the whole halt NMI trick, or if you're running DriveWire for that matter, because it halts the CPU dead. So of course you're not updating your clock anymore.
Right.
And you're basically losing time every time you do a disk access. Whereas if you have a real hardware clock, like the old Burke and Burks and the Eliminator and some of the ones used, or if you're using the DriveWire, updating the clock from the PC, you get that update once a minute to resync your clock back up.
Right. So that would explain why, because I also mounted a image. I was booting off DriveWire, mounting it on my PC, and then I mounted another disk in SDC, and I was trying to write them both at the same time, and I kept getting seek errors off the SDC card, drive 1. So that would probably explain why, because the interrupt problem. That was
well, once you're in OS-9, the disk image that you would have mounted in the SDC would be under, /SDC1. So
SD0 and SD1. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, because I was using /D1 and it was
right, and that's only for the real floppy drive once you're in OS-9.
Okay,
and,
so /SDC. Okay.
Right, but the thing is though, is if you had the drive space 1, pound 1, so where the drive 1 was mounted as the DriveWire, that's not a physical drive emulation.
Mm-hmm.
So where the /SD1 comes in is the emulated drive 1 that's on the CoCoSDC. So basically, if you had a drive, a volume on DriveWire mounted as drive 1, then that goes away once you boot into OS-9, because the SDC is now not even mapping that the way that you were thinking. You would then be using /X1.
X0, actually.
Well, he said he had it in drive 1, so if he had it in the slot drive 1, then it would be /X1. So...
Well, actually, the way I did it was when I powered it up, I would mount drive 0 with the as DriveWire, and then I would then do drive 1, and then I would actually mount that in my SDC image, the disk image from the SDC card. Then I booted into DOS, using the DOS command, and it would boot up DriveWire that way. And then I did a /D1. It actually showed up my SDC image just fine, but I kept getting seek errors after a while.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you were running the DriveWire kernel, which has the real floppy controller driver, but you're using the real floppy controller driver with the SDC card in its hardware floppy emulation mode.
Right.
Okay, so it thought OS-9 thinks it's talking to a real floppy controller.
Right.
Okay, so it worked, but you're saying you got an occasional seek error, huh?
Right.
Yeah, and I know why at that point, because at that point Darren is emulating what a real max 3.5-inch floppy drive can go to, and that's 82 tracks. So if your disk image goes beyond 82 tracks, it will just spit errors at you, because it's like, I can't go past 82. We're having a hardware failure.
Okay, got it.
So at that point, you would need a DriveWire boot image. If you're booting from DriveWire, you need the boot image to load the drivers for the SDC in hard drive mode, where you'd need the LL CoCoSDC, super something, and then SD0 and SD1.
Or you need to use a disk image that would be legal on a real floppy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
gotcha.
So a maximum of 82 tracks, double sides, 18 sectors per track, and that will work without. That should work without it. Yeah, and I understand what's going on now. So
yeah. Yeah, because I also tried to mount your virtual hard drive as drive 1, and that's also I got it, and I can see why it did that.
Yeah, and it can't understand how to access beyond track 80. So yeah, that will work fine for disks that you could actually write to legally to a real floppy, and it should work. But for the hard drive mode, that actually kicks the SDC driver into a different mode, and you're not using the SDC driver when you're booting in DriveWire. It's actually running the standard floppy driver, and it's running the SDC controller in hardware floppy emulation mode. And in that mode, it doesn't understand how to access beyond 80 tracks.
Right, yep. That makes a lot of sense. You got that, Stevie?
Yeah, and if I really this is riveting stuff here, but it's really reminded me of something. And what I really need to do right now is we need to switch over for a minute, because this whole discussion of OS-9 really needs to have a commercial sponsor right now. So hold on just a second here.
Good day, mates. This is Nick Marionette, author of such color computer titles as Donut Disaster, Rupert Rhymes, and Rockstar Pilot. And I am here today to tell you about the world's most fabulous operating system, OS-9. OS-9 and its current incarnation, Nitrous 9, is the most advanced operating system ever created. And what makes it so good? Ease of use. I find OS-9 so incredibly intuitive that I haven't once cracked open the user manual. And yet I've been able to create such incredible games faster than the time it takes to sing Waltzing Matilda. Using OS-9, I expect my next game, Funstar, will be done this weekend and distributed exclusively on ROM cartridge. OS-9 forever.
Any resemblance to actual events to persons living or dead is purely coincidental.
There we have it. That discussion just made me echo in my head the three words that should be synonymous with OS-9: ease of use.
I do agree. It should be synonymous with OS-9 ease. I mean, I agree with you. The design of the OS, it has plug and play drivers. It has a microkernel, real-time OS. It is designed for a core that could be very easy to use. Unfortunately, we've got a few serious problems that get in the way. One is the manuals that are available are primarily for the original microware OS-9. There's nothing really been written for a manual for Nitrous 9, and there are some differences between the two. The other thing that gets in the way of ease of use is building the boot sectors and boot tracks for OS-9 was designed by the original microware OS-9 for use on floppy disks. And if you use it to build a boot or a boot configuration on floppy, it works pretty well. But when you, even with the Burke hard drive controllers, which we had back in the day, anything other than a floppy disk trying to boot, there are serious issues with the utilities that come with OS-9 for building that boot. So, I agree it should be very easy to use, but the fact of the matter, like things like OS-9 Gen don't work properly on hard disks or virtual floppies, and this creates issues. So, fortunately, we've got pre-built boot disks out there that I've had to, for instance,
right.
that disk that this gentleman here is using, in order for me to get that boot track to work, I went in and generated the boot list with OS-9 Gen inside, and then I had to go in and manually sector edit some of the sectors to get it to link properly on a hard disk image.
Wow. Ease of use.
It should be manual required. It should be easy to use.
Yes,
but,
yes.
Now I have been working on OS-9 Gen to try and get it to generate and write a bootable disk image.
Well, David pointed out some stuff too that was addressed too, didn't you, David? That was that Tormod had recently acknowledged. Is that the same stuff you did, David, or is that something else?
No, that's with the toolshed stuff.
Oh, okay. My bad.
But the OS-9
it's
Gen
all
utility
mumbo-jumbo to me.
Right. The OS-9 Gen utility itself is specifically designed to work on floppies, but it does work on 20 sector per track floppies too.
All right, there you go.
Which mine probably, after I get done modifying it for the SDC, my version probably will not support 20 sector per track. And as I mentioned,
just don't submit that to the repo, because that would be breaking it.
Yeah, well, whatever. But it will support SDC. And my reason for that is, there is not a lot of need for a 20 sector per track floppy in this day and age. So,
say it isn't so.
No,
You've just stomped on David's life's work, you know.
No, I do understand. But the SDC, when it's in SDC mode, is considered a hard disk. So that's one way to detect for certain specifications. But still, if you have a floppy, especially like the high density, I know not very many have that, but I had bootable high density floppies, which you wouldn't think would be possible, but it was.
Actually, my modification may still work with the 20 sector per track stuff because I'm going to put in. It's going to be an option flag for doing, the if I can't detect it off of the device descriptor, which I might be able to, which is an interesting thought. But I've had some trouble trying to do that. But for right now, I'm just adding an option switch that lets you specify to lock it in. And I've got it hard coded right now at sector 613. So,
well, let's get back to Richard's question now. Richard, were you given most of the answers that you needed on how to address some of these things?
Oh, absolutely. It's now I'm going to have more questions next week, and we can probably talk like 3 or 4 more hours.
I actually have a question for you, Richard, and that is what are you doing in OS-9? You have a project you're working on? Is this curiosity type stuff, or?
It's mainly curiosity, and it's also that what I like to do with the CoCo is I will able to communicate with the outside world, using either the Linux system, or just able to get stuff from the outside world.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. I'm sorry, David.
And OS-9 does that very well.
Yes.
Okay. David, were you getting ready to say something? Yeah.
Yes. But Richard, the other thing that to make the boot file easier to edit, there's a set of tools that Curtis put me onto, tools to whatever, it all runs together. You can go to the Color Computer Archive and you can download a package called Quick Tools. And in there is a tool that you can modify your OS-9 boot and add extra modules into your OS-9 boot or delete. And what you could do is then go into like your DriveWire boot and add in the extra modules for the SDC.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have the SD0 and SD1. Or if you was doing the SDC base boot disk image, then you could add the DriveWire modules to it that way.
Yeah,
So
I'd rather do it that way. I'd rather have the SDC handling all the files, because there's times what I'd like to do is just, when I save files, is I like to have it saved on the SDC and not the DriveWire,
Yeah, yeah, that would be extremely doable. You just need to add, in the main chat here, which I know no one sees the Skype chat, but I gave a list of the modules that gets added just for the hard or the disk image part of DriveWire and the clock module. So those would be the things that would need to be added, and the clock module that would need to be replaced.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if you want to boot primarily for practical, the easiest thing for you to do if you want to run primarily with your primary disk being SDC is, like I said, just boot it using that disk image I've already constructed, and then just type, after you boot, OS-9 boots up, type load space DriveWire _ mods.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about your disk or virtual disk you gave me, there's so much stuff on there that I'm like exploring it, and my wife doesn't like that because I'm spending not going to bed and playing around with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there, and there was some discussion earlier actually about looking at OS-9 source code and 6809 source code, and I've got a lot of 6809 source code on there. There's a source code to my XCOM 9 terminal program is on there. A bunch of other 6809 source code on there in the sources directory. There's also a bunch of games, and yes, there are games for OS-9, and some of them are very fun to play, and they're not the type of games that you write that are heavy arcade games, or not as many of them are. But you've got Rogue. There's a nice implementation of Rogue for OS-9, and if you type make GW before you start it, you'll get the character-based graphics, which it comes out with a very nice display. There's also Micro Mission is an OS-9 game, Microscopic Mission,
right?
That's based it, and that runs under OS-9. And the Submarine Simulator is also a nice game.
Yeah, Sub Battle Simulator.
Yes, that's a very, very fun game to play, and those all exist under OS-9. So
I'd like to see Interbank Incident finally get patched over to Nitrous 9 as well.
That's probably in the works based on what Curtis and David have been working on. That's definitely something that we talked about recently that might happen. Let's do this.
Interbank Incident is one of those ones that uses that IRQ that Nitrous 9 doesn't support. I know Cave Walker also supposed to run under OS-9 Level 2, which it does run under OS-9 Level 2, but it doesn't run under Nitrous 9 Level 2.
Right.
All right. All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back. But this has been probably the best 45 minutes of my life right now listening to all this good stuff here. So I want to thank you all for that.
You can't have it back.
I can't get it back.
You and Nick, that was your best part ever.
We'll be back.
If you want, Steve, we can go more.
I know you can, which is why I'm taking a commercial break. Okay, so we'll be back in 2 and 2.
Hello, this is David Ladd, and you're watching Original Gamer Stevie Stroh.
What's going on, everybody? Original Gamer Stevie Stroh here, and when you are done with CoCoTALK, why not head on over to my YouTube channel and get your share of gameplay goodness. There you will find everything from the old school to the next gen. There are video game reviews, interviews, how-tos, and replays of CoCoTALK. So for all of your video game needs on YouTube, head on over to youtube.com/OG Stevie Stroh for your share of gameplay goodness today.
Radio Shack store-wide manager's red tag sale is on now. We've slashed prices 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. Save on famous Radio Shack hi-fi, car stereo, radios, toys, TV games, calculators, walkie-talkies, and CB radios. Look for the big red tag. Save like never before on these and literally hundreds of red tag specials. Hurry into Radio Shack today.
I have a big black square on my screen.
You might have to reinstall Windows 10 again.
All right, well, we're going to take a break for just a minute here by talking about OS-9s and floppies and drive wires and stuff like that. And it actually is interesting, and we, that's one of the things I do want to talk about as well is the fact that I do have a new color computer channel, and I believe I mentioned that. I don't remember if I mentioned that. There's a lot of things I don't remember. Let me just show that real quick before I go to the reason why I pulled up my camera there for a second is because I was going to do a quick show and tell segment here. But before we do the show and tell, I did put out a video explaining this, that my original YouTube channel is going to be broken into 3 channels now, which really makes a lot of sense, and it's just the time and energy to do it. But the one that I really am focusing on the most right now is the color computer, because of all the things I've done on YouTube. The CoCo and the CoCo community are really the ones that have paid back in spades as far as people just appreciating what I've done, right? So when you go to my YouTube youtube.com/OGStevieStro, which is my original channel. My channel has all kinds of stuff, right? So my channel has retro games, it has CoCo stuff, it has CoCoTALK, it has interviews, and it really has a lot. So on the homepage of my YouTube channel now, I have links to the I'm a CoCoNut channel. So my plan is, and as my time permits, and this has been one of our recurring themes today, is that the W word of work, right? And life gets in the way. But I'm going to be taking all of the CoCo content from my original channel and moving it to the I'm a CoCoNut channel. So the I'm a CoCoNut channel is going to be nothing but color computer content. And the nice thing about that now is that I no longer have this mental shackle around my brain that says, well, I shouldn't do this on a gaming channel and I shouldn't do that on a gaming channel, because it's not a gaming channel, it's a CoCo channel. So will my color computer games be there? Yes. Will our interviews be there? Yes. Will CoCoTALK be there? Yes. But we could have videos like on how to set up DriveWire. What is DriveWire? How do we plug in a cable for DriveWire? How do we implement DriveWire? How do we do DriveWire over physical cable versus over, networking? And so we can get deeper in depth and have videos on these different topics, and it makes sense to put these types of videos on a color computer channel. So
hey, so you can play your games on DriveWire.
There you go, right? So there is a channel, and you guys are watching it right now. If you're watching us live, you're watching me on that new channel. So make sure you subscribe to that channel. And I also, on my channel, I have a lot of retro games. So I have things like arcade games and console games, and I have games from the NES and the the Atari 8-bit and all kinds of stuff. And so my original channel is going to end up being nothing but retro games from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and it's going to be everything except color computer games. So the original Gamer Stevie Stro channel is going to be nothing but retro games. All color computer content will be on the CoCoNut channel, and then any newer games will be going on another channel I have that's going to be basically like 21st century games, like things that came out after the year 2000. So I think this makes a lot of sense for me to not try to have a complete hodgepodge of content on one channel. I think that's probably in some respects hurting my channel, because there's different people that come for different reasons and you can't please everybody. So now I have 3 different shades of content, and hopefully my subscribers will be focused on the channel that best suits what they like. If you like nothing but retro, subscribe to that. If you like CoCo, subscribe to that. You know what I mean?
So where does Popstar Pilot go? Because it's a 2000s game, plus it's a CoCo game.
Yeah, that is a great question, and so it will definitely have to go on the CoCo channel, but whatever, we'll figure that out. We'll have to talk about that offline. So let's do a quick show and tell. There was a discussion, and I posted some of this on Facebook, but we talked about this on the show. Ron Delvaux posted this. There was a question. Was there a version of the Extended Color Basic Manual that only had 13 chapters? And this is it. I mentioned that I had purchased it on eBay. Matter of fact, last weekend, it was sitting on my counter, still in the bag. I didn't know it was here. I could have showed this off last week. But this is the 13-chapter version of the book compared to the 24-chapter version of the book. And it is, roughly half the thickness. And so I guess what had happened was when the color computer was first released, ironically, they just had not finished making the book, so they ended up releasing basically an alpha version of the manual. And if you look at the table of contents here, you can see here that the table of contents ends on chapter 13 on page basically 124. And everything that's in this book now is really section 1 of the final manual that has 4 sections and considerably much more pages than the 100 and some odd pages of these 13 chapters. So this is somewhat of an oddity, and it just so happens I was able to get one off of eBay because the topic came up on Facebook was, does anybody know about this? Does anybody remember this? I saw a book posted. I messaged the guy. I go, hey, do me a favor, tell me how many chapters are in there. And he told me, and I was like, oh, cool. So I went ahead and I bought it. Now, this also came with a book that I've never seen before, but this book is called TRS-80 Color Basic. And this is a very cool game. This is a very cool book too. It does get into color computer graphics, and it covers both, color basic and extended color basic. So this came with it. But I think the takeaway from this, number one, does anybody know the name Bob Albrecht? Does that name ring a bell? Did he make other?
He occasionally wrote stuff for Rainbow, if I remember too.
Okay. So this was just a kind of a bonus book because I really bought the book mostly to get, to get the 13 chapter thing. But somewhere in here, and I can't find it now, but he mentions, here's some other books you should read. And he mentions the, the getting started with Color Basic and the moving ahead with Extended Color Basic. But what he mentions in there is the artist who drew the cartoons. And that's been a question, right? Who drew those CoCo cartoons, right? And it turns out it was a female name. So I'm going to see if I can find it real quick. I don't remember if it was in the foreword. It's not in the beginning of the book. But no, he gets into a lot of stuff in here, but somewhere maybe in the back in an appendix or a glossary or something. I'm going to see if I can find it real quick, because what I want to do is I want to try to find that person on the internet. I would love to be able to, there's a section on how to use the tape recorder. There's a page on all of the ASCII codes and joystick reference manuals. So of course, here we go. Hold on. Is it on the last page? Look here first. Getting Started with Color Basic by Donna Greaves Smith. Designed and illustrated by Linda Yakel, Y-A-K-E-L. That's on page 375. A Beginner's Guide to the Color Computer. And it says Going Ahead with Extended Color Basic by Jonathan Erickson. Designed and illustrated by Linda Yakel, Y-A-K-E-L. So we possibly now know who the artist is who drew this color computer, right? And this is an iconic image of our 80s memory of dealing with the CoCo, is that kind of CoCo cartoon character. So is Donna Yakel. I'm going to try to find that person on the internet and on social media, and I think that would make for a really good interview if we could speak to the person who drew and illustrated the CoCo. You know what I mean?
And you have the names of the people that wrote the two manuals too?
Yes, apparently so, yes.
That would be interesting to interview too, because to be honest, out of all the 8-bit machines that I remember going through manuals, the Apple II, the Atari, etc., the CoCo ones were by far the easiest to learn from. Like they were the most well written by a long shot.
And I'm living proof of that, because I was able to learn based on those books, and I'm dumber than a box of rocks. So yeah. Now, mail call. Our friend Tony Jimenez, who's been doing all the cool videos for us, right? Well, he's been posting something on Facebook about how he's been struggling to 3D print a CoCoSDC case, and I think his case woes are done. Well, he sent me one, and this is it here. This is you see the Tandy engraving? And so it's got these ventilation slots across the side here at an angle. It says Tandy on here. This is the opening for the dip switches. And my favorite part on the side here is this little button right here where you can push in the button to switch floppies instead of having to stick like a pencil point in there and stuff. So this is a really cool case. No disrespect to John Strong's design of the cases, but I liked this when I saw it. I think it looks really cool. And he sent me one, and it came in just the other day. So I literally just unboxed that for you guys right now, and I will get my primary CoCoSDC set up. And one of the things I mentioned to Simon, which I haven't had a chance to actually ship out yet, is that because I've actually now got 3 CoCoSDCs, I don't need them all. I'm going to send one over to Simon for him to develop on, and he was happy to hear that. I just got to get that going. You know, life happens. Life gets in the way sometimes. So there is my that's my little show and tell section there, which I just thought was kind of cool. So yeah, so we have some, to me, this is new information on who were the authors of these books and who was the illustrator of our books. And I do now want to set out trying to contact and reach those people if they're still around, and then maybe get an interview, hopefully a video interview, if not at least an email or audio interview or something like that. That would be kind of cool.
I would really like to figure out like who kind of spearheaded the way the manual was written, etc. Because like I said, it was by far the best of the 8-bits.
Indeed. All right, so Ron Delvaux is not here with us today because he's traveling abroad. He is on vacation with his family, but we still are going to have a Ron's Garage section here in his absence. We won't have Ron in person, but I'm going to show you some stuff he's been posting to Facebook. So maybe one quick commercial break, and then we'll do the Ron's Garage proper intro, because this is a professional show, and then we'll show off some stuff on Facebook. So we'll be right back, folks.
Hey, this is Bruce Moore, author of Force of Doom, and you're watching the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh.
Are you ready? For the Forest of Doom.
All right, everybody. It is time for Ron's Garage with a peek into the past featuring the vintage computer collection of Ron Dalvo. Now, Ron is not with us today, so in Ron's behalf, we will use the internet. So take it away, internet. All right, so we're back. We are back. Well, welcome back. And let's take a look at what's going on here on the internets. And so this was kind of a cool thing that he posted. I haven't got to Ron's page yet. But so these are some signs. Ron, by trade, is kind of a graphics artist and designer and sign maker and things like that. So he's been showing us a lot of cool things he's made in the past. And this is, what we called at one point in time something like desktop publishing and, using the computer to do things. And what I find to be both ironic about this is he has computer-generated literature basically saying, I don't use computers to do my work. So, but the graphics that he makes for these things are really cool. He is a very talented artist, and so the fact that back in the 80s he was doing these kind of computer-generated little flyers and things now, I mean, everything now is computer-generated if you think about it, but it was kind of a cool thing at one point in time. So on Ron's Garage, Ron puts a post here saying, traveling, so it's emulator time, right? So he's bringing his CoCo emulator with him. Looks like he's running VCC right there. And again, we always see some really cool pictures of Ron's collection. So Ron's Garage kind of started here on the show, and then he started a Facebook group for it where he's posting his pictures. He's got an amazing collection. So here he's showing off his MC10 and a demo cassette tape that he found with some stuff on here. Here's a badge he posted that he had done for the 17th annual last Chicago CoCo Fest. I mean, these designs are really cool, and these designs are now making. Here's John Linville showing that he had one of the buttons printed from that. So this was Ron's design here that was used back then for the 23rd. So it looks like that design was used more than once, right? Ron's Garage. Here's a little clip where he's showing it off from CoCoTALK. Here he talked about this last week where he's got some of these Tandy monitors still in the box, right? So high resolution color monitor CM11. I think that one was for the Tandy 1000. Yeah. There's a CM8 for our beloved CoCo 3 still in the box. You know what I mean? I mean, this guy's got stuff. He's got stuff that's just, it's the turn of the screw, right? I think he talked about this last week. He showed this off last week, right? So Ron's Garage is a really great source of looking at, and this is his personal collection. This is stuff he had and he still has. And so you're going to see it each week here on CoCoTALK, but you can also get to it on Ron's Garage Facebook group. And there's a link to that on the I'm a Coconut page, right? So if you're not aware of the dedicated color computer website, imacoconut.com, here it is. And I've updated this page now. It's a little bit cleaner. It's got a little bit more stuff on here. But one of the things you go here, if you click to communities, you'll see a link to things like Tandy Assembly and CoCo Fest and different Facebook groups and Yahoo groups. And then down here towards the bottom, I've got a link to Ron's Garage and Ron's OS-9 Facebook group. So if you need to know where to go to get to things for the color computer community, your one-stop shop is imacoconut.com. And most of the time, we just have a little list like this. So if the page is short, it'll just be a little list of links you can click on. One of the things I just did, because this page was getting kind of long here, was the blogs and projects. This is getting kind of long now. We've got 30 entries right now under blogs and projects, and this isn't all of them. So what I did here is I turned this into a table. And so this table, you could sort on the type of site. Is this a development site? Is it a blog? Is it hardware? We got one for Fusix of operating systems. I think that was a question that Karen had asked earlier, saying, how does Flex run off of the CoCoSDC? Does anybody remember that question? Does anybody know the answer to that? Does Flex run on the CoCoSDC?
I don't see why wouldn't I, though I haven't personally tried it. It was just a floppy-based operating system, so
it should run as far as a floppy is concerned, because the SDC pretty much emulates the original floppy controller. So you put a disk image in there, it should look at it and say, as far as I can tell, I've got a floppy.
There you go. And real quick, let's see what the most listened to episodes are right now. Our number one downloaded episode of CoCoTALK right now is episode 22 with Nick Marentes' Pac-Man discussion of his update of Pac-Man 1.1. Episode 21 is the second most listened to. Is Floppy Talk on the list? Floppy Talk is on the list, about halfway up there on the chart. So Floppy Talk is a popular episode. Getting some. Nitrous 9 is on the list of the top 10 most listened to podcasts. So very cool. So yeah, Ron's Garage is a Facebook page. You can get to it from I'mACoconut.com. And even though Ron is not here, I thought we should still have his segment and just mention that and point you there. One more thing that I'll show off that he's been tagging me on or posting for me on my Facebook page is that he went to this thing in Chicago, which is the arcade museum type thing. So he posted some pictures of that for me on my Facebook page. And for me right now, this is me dying and going to heaven. If heaven exists, I want it to look like this. I want there to be arcade machines and color computers and hot chicks. That's all I need. Cold beer and some spicy buffalo wings, and I'm a happy guy, right? So this is a place in Chicago. Is this near Coco Fest too? This arcade place in this is in Chicago, where Ron is right now. Do you guys know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I have heard of it before, but I haven't been to it.
Okay. So this is an arcade, and for boys and girls, for those of you who were not around in the 80s, this is where we went to play our games. We didn't sit down on our couch and grab our wireless controller and put on our headsets and talk to our buddies online. We actually had to get up and have quarters and stuff and go play games like pinball and Pac-Man and stuff like that. This is just really, look at this Defender. Speaking of a 6809 base game right now, right there's Williams Defender right there on the screen. This, for me, this is Nirvana. Here's Donkey Kong. These are national treasures as far as I'm concerned. The original arcade games. Look at this. You can see all the scan lines and the CRTs, all the RGB stuff. It looks really good. And there's people there, right? Human beings. What are those, right? This is a headboard for a pinball machine, and this one's got a Pabst Blue Ribbon Can Crusher. It's got a Mopar graphic on here, is what Ron's saying. So, you know what I mean? It's just like, can you imagine there were times when beers sponsored pinball machines? That's pretty cool. Star Wars, look at this, pinball machines. Really neat. So here's the Star Wars pinball machine itself. So cool stuff. So even though Ron is not here with us in person today, he's still here with us in spirit, and he is still being mentioned here on CoCoTALK. And the three words that everybody should remember, especially when you're thinking of OS-9, are ease of use. So I've had those up here on the screen just to remind you all. OS-9 equals ease of use, right?
You also have to add no manual required.
No.
I'm going to try and continue to fix that. So it does need work.
Yeah.
Since Ron is not here, I was wondering if maybe we could talk about my garage.
Would love to.
So I recently dug something out of my garage, which I may be trading off to another collector, but somebody was asking if anybody had an X-Pad. Do any of you know what an X-Pad is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have
grab
one.
Tablet.
Yeah, so I actually, this went, ding, hey, I remember seeing one of those. So I went out to my garage and pulled down the ladder to my attic and crawled up into my attic and crawled over various other things which I won't describe on this show. And and dug the
Were they breathing?
Fortunately, no. But dug the X-Pad out of the milk crate where it was sitting in, and brought it down and cleaned it off, and plugged it into my Color Computer 1. And much to my amazement, when I got some software loaded in off of cassette, because all my multi-packs have been upgraded to work with the CoCo 3, and the X-Pad actually does not work with a CoCo 3 upgraded multi-pack because the address range it uses. So I loaded some software in off of cassette, and much to my amazement, this X-Pad, which has been sitting in my attic for I don't know exactly how long, still worked. And so I was able to run an extended basic program that read the X-Pad and draw some stuff on the screen in P Mode 4 graphics, and it was interesting.
Yeah, That was a neat thing. Let me see if I can grab mine real quick, because I got one on eBay in the box, and I think I got it for about $25, which is actually a pretty good price. But it's got the box, it's in the actual original carton, and it's got the manuals and everything else. So it was a steal of a find.
Mine was in a box too. It was in a milk carton.
Yes. So hold on, you guys talk amongst
yourselves. And I seem to remember in Canada
mine.
When they first went on sale, they were $499.
Yeah, there's one I saw on eBay right now. Somebody's trying to sell as a buy it now for like $225. I don't know if it'll sell or not.
Yeah, I just pulled mine up off the shelf, and I'll zoom in here real quick to make it big screen. But yeah, so this is the X-Pad. And it is a high-resolution digitizing tablet. It plugged into the cartridge slot, and you used an actual kind of like ballpoint pen to draw on. But I guess it was maybe a resistive surface where it felt the pressure. I don't know if it read it from the pen or if it read it from the tablet itself. Do you know?
Yes, I do actually. It's not a resistive surface. What it is it has a X and Y wire grid underneath the surface. And the pen has a magnetic pickup, and it actually senses that wire grid. And you can actually wave the pen above the surface without touching it, and it will sense the movement of the pen above the surface.
Okay, so it does have some type of tracking to know where you are positionally on the pad, and it was a much higher resolution. I believe it was like a 256 by 256 resolution of that tablet. It matched the high-res screens perfectly.
Yeah.
Yes.
It came with, I don't remember if it came with
I remember the built-in software would detect if you actually were pressing on the tablet itself. It would draw, and if you lifted it within half an inch to an inch above, it would just show the pixel dot of where your positioning was.
Okay.
I beg to differ. There is no built-in software.
Okay, but maybe there was code that you could type in to make a demo program.
Yeah, there was code in the manual, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
That's what I kind of meant.
Okay, so yeah, I remember doing the original program and seeing, there's a lot of things here that I want to do myself. So I had actually written my own graphics program using the X-Pad where you could do circles and paint circles and do all kinds of stuff. I had little sidebar menus that would come and go and stuff. I had actually done a pretty elaborate drawing program with that, which of course none of my original software exists anymore in the great floppy loss of 1990. But yeah, I remember writing a really cool program for that because it did, I'm assuming there's a ROM in there that adds extensions to the basic language now where you can communicate with the device or read from the device.
Nope. Actually, the way you communicate with that device is you just do a peek of 3 memory locations. And one memory location. Memory location gives the X coordinate. One memory location gives the Y coordinate, and one memory location gives the state of the pen, whether it's depressed and whether it's depressed on a portion of the pad that's in the main section of the pad or the border, or if you've pressed the pen point somewhere off of the pad. There's like several different status numbers that it gives for the third memory location. So you have X, Y, and pen status. And you just do variable equals peak, memory location, and that's it. And that's how it interfaces to basic.
Okay, and maybe I don't have the manual. Okay, but I have the pad. Now that's interesting because it was a long time ago when I did it. I don't remember how I did it.
But yeah, in the manual, which I don't have there's the overlay that they sent you with the thing. Yes, but yeah, the thing, all the software was in listings in the manual. It was written in extended basic, and you just read the data from the. Yours actually has all 3 colored dots on the top there, where it has the three Radio Shack dots under TRS-80. Okay. Yeah, a couple of my dots are a little bit faded out from age, but my pad still works and actually looks halfway decent. But it's an
actual kind of like ballpoint pen where if you put down paper on your pad, you could literally draw on the paper.
People use that to trace out drawings that they'd previously drawn and then draw it on to digitize on the screen.
Yep. But the big bane of that particular device was the fact that no software was really, other than what was printed in that manual.
Yeah.
There was some third-party stuff. I remember Rainbow used to sell it. Was it Graphicom or something that had support for it? I can't remember which one it was now.
There's very, very little. I know that.
Yeah, there was one or two commercial programs, though, because I remember a friend of ours, Bill would remember him, Daryl Hildebrand in Saskatoon had one, and we actually had one commercial package that used it, and I wish I could remember which one it was. Graphicom 1 or 2 or something, or some graphics.
Yeah, I think it was Graphicom.
I mean, honestly, this thing is screaming for a patch for double back. You know, to be able to use a real pen to trace around double back would be awesome on that.
CoCoMax. It's screaming for a patch for CoCoMax 3 too. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Or just CoCoMax. CoCoMax patch for the for that device would be nice, but unfortunately, none of that really exists.
Yeah. So. Now, since Ron isn't here too, I dragged out a piece of software if you guys want to check it out for, back in the day too. So
sure. While you're doing that, Grant Leedy mentioned the name of that arcade is called the Galloping Ghost Arcade. It's the website he put in the chat. It's gallopingghostarcade.com. He says it's about 18 miles from CoCoFest, which is about a half-hour drive. It's open until 2 a.m. Might be a good place for a Friday or Sunday night CoCoFest after party. So good, yeah.
Yeah, it would be. Okay, so the one I was going to show off, and I just put links in both the YouTube chat and the Skype chat there just to show a page that has some screenshots of it, so I won't have to bring all that stuff up for you. But it's basically the best Ultima-style game that the CoCo 3 ever had, called The Seventh Link, and it was by a Canadian company called the Bleak Triad, which was made up of 3 guys that Bill and I got to know fairly well for a while. So they shipped it off in one of these little envelopes here.
Okay.
And you can see they were located in Ottawa, Ontario. And it was kind of reminding me a little bit of what is being done with the manual for Mr. Moore's there.
Bruce Moore?
Yeah. When he was kind of doing this was a bit more primitive because it was black and white, and you had Xerox stuff, but he did some of his own homemade little drawn graphics for the manual, and it's multi-pages long of descriptions of how to play the game, and has little special cards. It
looks very much like Ultima from the screenshots there on the webpage.
Well, it's very good. Actually went beyond Ultima at the time a little bit. But he went a little bit of an extra mile here when he was selling it, because he added some other little things that he really didn't need to have to do. And if anybody's played Icon Products, Gates of Delirium, some of it he did too, but he went even beyond that. And the stuff was described in the manual, so I mean you're basically traveling between different planets and stuff too. So he has maps of each of the individual planets here. They're on double-sided cards.
Oh wow, that's neat.
That he included in there as well. And then there was this message that is supposed to help it explain the game, and apparently it got destroyed in a fire, stealing a part of it. So we actually did printing out, and he actually burned the bottom of it here. I don't know if you can see that.
Wow!
On the video.
Hold it up a little bit higher, because the Skype icons are in front of it. Okay, yeah. Okay.
But he actually literally burned it to match his little storyline going there.
Oh wow, that is
see the
cool.
browning of it. And then one of the other things is you're supposed to have this superconductivity wire you have to find to get these portals and stuff to work. And he actually included a little bit of gold string here. That's part of the superconducting wire.
Oh wow! So there's physical props that come with the game. And everything.
It's quite an interesting game, and the game's huge. I've never actually finished it yet, but if you want to bring up the website that I put up, you can see some of the screenshots, and I can give you a little bit of details of the game while you're showing that.
Yeah. Let me switch over to that right now. Okay. So here we are at the top of the page here. So this is the 7th Link Radio Shack Color Computer 3. Here's the title screen.
Yeah, and he had some digitized sound going in the background there. And Bleak Triad, the company, also sold an 8-bit hardware digitizer, sound digitizer, and they actually did the opening credit music as a digitization sample.
Wow.
And then if you go through the rest of the screenshots there, I mean, basically that's an Ultima-style game. It's similar to Gates of Delirium was in the CoCo 1 and 2, except it uses the full 16 color.
Okay.
When was it released?
Originally 1989, he did some patched updated graphics in 1993.
Wow.
So, CoCo 3-wise, it was, I think, the third year of the CoCo 3, but it takes 2 full discs. One of those is 40 track. Huge maps going across. You can save the game in progress and stuff. It's got line of sight, darkness you can't see past. One thing he did uniquely that Gates of Delirium did not do, and the original first 2 or 3 Ultimas didn't do, is that if you were in the dungeons, it used an engine similar to Shockmaster's Gloom or Nick's Gatecrasher, because it actually did real 3D. It didn't just do the wireframe.
Oh, wow.
Like if you saw a fountain and you went moving around the fountain, you'd actually be able to see the background move behind it type thing. So it was actually doing 3D ray projection type stuff. So very involved game, huge. Like I said, I've never actually won it. I have actually gotten in the dungeons. Unfortunately, I think this particular person here was playing it. I don't think he got into one of the dungeons by the time he finished his little playthrough. So
okay,
you don't see any pictures of the 3D effect he's got going there. But if you're into those types of games, the role-playing games, this is probably the best one on the CoCo 3 or on the CoCo period. And then there's some other good ones like Paladin's Legacy, Gates of Delirium, Telengard, and a few others that were pretty good in the CoCo 1 and 2. But the ultimate one for the CoCo series would be this one.
Okay, very cool. It's something that you got me intrigued in wanting to not only play it, but maybe we can do a little video on this at some point in time. This would be a good thing to show off on the new CoCo YouTube channel. Speaking of that channel too, sorry to interrupt you, Barry, but yeah, I also plan on doing Dragon games there and stuff too, and so doing stuff for the Dragon and the MC10. So it won't be just CoCo, but CoCo related. Sorry, Barry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask what the current copyright status is on this game. Is it being sold? Is it,
It's not being sold. One of the original authors, was it Dave or the other guy? Might have been Jeff. He actually had his own webpage up. He works at Microsoft now. He had his own webpage up, and he publicly released it. He said, you guys can all copy it and do whatever you want to do with it. And then his page, I think, disappeared because Microsoft didn't want him throwing off third-party stuff, and that was stuff that he sold under his own company earlier.
But if he's made that announcement, then
he did make the announcement, and if you go into the Internet Archive Wayback Machine, you can see the original announcements to prove that that is what had in fact happened. But yes, it is legally able to be downloaded.
Okay.
I don't know if it's on the archive yet. It was copy protected, so I can't remember if that got fixed up or not. But
I actually have it on my SDC, Curtis, and it still is copy. It still is copy protected in that state, but the SDC does run it.
Okay, cool. Good to know. I haven't actually tried it yet, so.
You actually do have to mount it the actual SDF images, but it does work. I still play it.
Cool. Maybe we can finally win the damn thing.
It should. SDC should run with the proper images set up. SDC should run pretty much any copy protected disk if we can get an image on it onto the SDF or SDC format.
Yeah, well, it sounds like from what Bill said, the SDF format. I did have it under DMK at one time or other. I remember when I borrowed the Cat Weasel board from Tim Lindner, I had made a backup copy of it, as well as some other stuff that it is actually on archives and stuff now too. So, but yeah, no, it's legally released. Feel free to use it. The graphics were very improved over the first version 1, the 1989 original. Like those screenshots you were showing before, the mountains stuff used to be very plain.
Okay.
There was no real, texture to them. It was just very simple, blocky graphics, but they vastly improved them in the new version.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. That's cool. So I just want to give you guys a head up. So we're going on 2.5 hours right now, and my biological stomach is starting to tell me that I'm getting hungry. So what I want to do is I'm going to take a commercial break. We're going to go over the Tandy Assembly website and see what's new there, or just review what's already there, and then just think about anything else you want to talk about as we wrap up today's show, and then just come up with some ideas of what we can talk about for next week's show. So real quick, commercial time, and we'll be right back, boys and girls.
And Neil Blanchard. We are the CoCo crew. I hope you're enjoying watching Stevie Stroh play video games, especially the CoCo games. And when you're done with that, check out our podcast at CoCoCrew.org.
At home, at the beach, in your car, at the shop, at the office, anywhere you enjoy fine audio programming. It's North America's premier source for color computer news, the CoCo Crew Podcast.
This is John Linville.
And Neil Blanchard.
And we are the CoCo Crew. I hope it's going to be a great show.
Join John and Neil each month as they bring the latest news about the color computer, Dragon, MC10, and others. It's the CoCo Crew Podcast. Visit www.cococrew.org and listen today.
You're listening to the CoCo Crew Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Bill Nobel, co-author of Nitrous 9. You are listening to CoCoTALK Live, the leading live CoCoTALK show.
Tandy Assembly would like to thank our sponsor, CoCoTALK. CoCoTALK is the nation's leading live talk show about the Tandy color computer airing live each week on YouTube, with video and audio replays available. Join CoCoTALK to discuss community projects, hardware and software, interviews, reviews, demos, and tutorials. For more details about CoCoTALK, visit CoCoTALK.live. Thank you to CoCoTALK for being a Tandy Assembly sponsor.
You've been hearing all the buzz about Tandy Assembly. All Radio Shack and Tandy computer models under one roof. It's happening October 7th and 8th in Chillicothe, Ohio. Don't miss our guest speakers, including Don French of TRS-80 fame, game designer Lance Mikolas, and Scott Adams of Adventure International. Make your reservations today. Call 800-542-7919 and ask for the special room rate for Tandy Assembly. But hurry, the rates are only good through September 5th. Tandy Assembly. Some assembly is required.
Hi, I'm Mike Rowan, one of the organizers of Tandy Assembly. We look forward to seeing everyone in Chillicothe, Ohio. I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about one of the great events at Tandy Assembly. That's the No Minimum Bid Auction. First, all of the auction items are donated. All proceeds from the auction will go toward the cost of the event. The auction is a great opportunity to get some big bargains on unusual vintage computer items. It's also a great deal of fun to see people, sometimes best friends, trying to outbid each other. We certainly hope you'll join in the fun at Tandy Assembly. As I said before, all of the auction items are donated. If you have any items or duplicates in your collection that you are willing to donate to the auction, we would certainly appreciate your donations. Just bring them to Tandy Assembly or contact us through our webpage, www.tandyassembly.com. Thanks, and we look forward to a great time with everyone at Tandy Assembly.
And what a perfect segue to our Tandy Assembly segment. We've just been joined, too, by Jim Brain. How are you, Jim Brain of Retro Innovations? Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
And we're coming to the end of CoCoTALK for today, but we would be remiss if we weren't talking about Tandy Assembly. So CoCoTALK started as a way for us to talk about being excited about going to CoCo Fest. And now we have two things a year to be, well, actually three things. We have David Ladd, which is a year-round excitement. And then we have CoCo Fest. And now we have Tandy Assembly. So there's three things to be excited. And OS-9, ease of use as well. So plenty of things to be excited about.
Working on that.
So Tandy Assembly is our next big event. And so the website is tandyassembly.com. And this is a vintage computing festival dedicated to Radio Shack brand of computers. And so it's a CoCo Fest Plus, right? So here's the website. The speaker lineup, I'm sure, is probably solidified at this point in time. It has not changed at this point. So our keynote speakers are Scott Adams of Adventure International, Don French with the TRS-80 story, Lance Mikolas, and Rick Adams, our very own CoCoTALK and CoCo living legend. Rick Adams will be there. And then we have some other speakers as well, including John Linville, Peter Satinsky, myself, Brendan Donahue, Randy Kindig, and Arno and Sasha. And there's going to be a lot of cool things that are going to be talking about in this two-day event. So make sure you check out all of those. Our exhibitors are plentiful. And so once again, I believe these were added in the order in which people signed up to be an exhibitor. So I am going to have a table there. So will Myro. It has caught on. Richard Lorbieski will be there. Peter and Alex Satinsky. Mark Marlette of Cloud9 will be there. Peter Bartlett, who John Strong was talking about earlier. So we'll see what Peter Bartlett's latest upgrade is for the CoCo, the VGA cartridge adapter. That's kind of cool. Randy Kindig showing portable computers. Jim Brain, who just joined us of Retro Innovations, will be there showing Tandy computer and general system products. Ian Maverick, all the way down from Australia, is going to be coming, showing off. Ian Maverick's like the Australian version of Ed Snyder. Brendan Donahue with his CoCo VGA project. Alan Hightower, John Linville, Evan Wright, Scott Adams, Mike Brandt, Rick Adams, Brett Gordon, George Phillips, and Vicecap Paul Fiscarelli are all going to be there in the exhibitor area, and it looks like the show lineup is about the same right now. So we have our opening of Don French as our kickoff keynote, talking about the true story of the making of the TRS-80. Later on, Rick Adams will be talking about resurrecting Bond Threat. Brendan Donahue will talk about how he had to hack Extended Color Basic to support 64 columns. Lance Michaelis will have a presentation from bank robbers to Facebook. Arno and Sasha will talk about an Android-based emulator in a retro app store for the TRS-80. Then you're going to hear me talk about my little journey of YouTubing and podcasting and things like that. Where there's the auction that we heard about in our little commercial, the no minimum bid auction, which has been a huge fun thing to do at CoCoFest. I'm glad to see that is carried over to Tandy Assembly. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a deal and a steal on something. CoCoTALK, a version of CoCoTALK will be live Saturday evening, where it's going to be kind of like a podcasting roundtable. So the CoCoTALK people who happen to be there will be there, and so will folks from the TRS-80 Trash Talk podcast, Floppy Days podcast, and the CoCo Crew podcast, and hopefully a live audience as well. And we're just going to talk about, I'm going to call this one Tandy Talk, right? So we're going to talk about everything that's been going on at Tandy Assembly. The Jeopardy thing that happened at CoCoFest was a lot of fun. So the Tandy Quiz Show is going to be happening at 9 p.m. social time. The one thing is hugely missing here is there is no music jam. So Curtis is not able to make it. Brian Schubing, the music man, is not going to be able to make it. So it's going to be lacking music, and we'll have to deal with that, I suppose. And Sunday we have Scott Adams with his presentation, Randy Kindig with portable computers through the years. John Linville looks like he's closing out the show with keeping the CoCo in the game. So
I have 2 questions I'd like to ask.
Okay.
Now I forgot what they were. This getting old sucks. I guess one thing is I'd like to find out secretly, are Scott Adams and Rick Adams related?
Well, Rick,
they both are very brilliant game authors, so I'm thinking there's something genetic going on there.
Right. Rick, can you answer that question? No, maybe Rick has been replaced with a stunt double right now. I'm not sure about that. So hopefully Rick will...
Hello.
Hey, there he is. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The question was garbled, so could you give it again?
I was wondering, are you and Scott Adams in any way related, sharing the same surname? Both of you
no,
are
we are not.
Around the same time. I'm wondering if there's something genetic going on there.
No. I am not related to Scott Adams. I am also not related to the Rick Adams who used to be the CEO of UUNet. There's a lot of Adamses that I get mixed up with. And nope, no connection.
The guy who did Dilbert, his name is Scott Adams too, right?
Well,
yeah, but not the same Scott Adams.
Too.
Yeah.
Also, no relationship.
And no relation to the Adams family.
That's correct. Although the college group that I was going to announced my engagement to my wife by going up to the front of the room and saying, we have a very important announcement to make, and then they go da 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 dun, snap snap, da 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 dun. And the weird thing is everybody knew what it meant. Everybody all looked at us and said, ooh.
Something serious is going on.
And then my second question, which is a bit more serious, the live CoCoTALK you guys are doing at Tandy Assembly, do you guys think you'll have enough bandwidth to allow some callers to call in to join as well?
Well, you mean like over Skype?
Yeah. I was thinking video, audio only, probably just to not kill the bandwidth.
Honestly, I had not even thought about that because I'm not sure what the layout is going to be and what the logistics are, and I don't know what the bandwidth is going to be until we get there. So I am planning, just like I've done to the past 2 CoCoFests, I am planning on live streaming all of the presentations. So for those who can't make Tandy Assembly, we'll be live streaming it. Now, the question that I need to get the answer to is, where is that stream going to go? I'm obviously willing to do it on my page, but early on, John Linville had mentioned they would prefer to have it live streamed through a Tandy Assembly branded page where it's all going through their channels, which is fine too, but I don't know what that channel is just yet. I might not find out till I get there. So where the live stream will actually occur, I'm not sure yet. Now, my software I use, XSplit, I can actually stream to more than one thing at once. So I might just want to run one stream to theirs, wherever that is, and I'll run a second one to mine to like my CoCoTALK stream too. So we've got a backup copy of these streams. But we're going to live stream all of the speaking presentations, and I will also try to live stream from the exhibitor area. I'm also going to try to get as many interviews as possible too that we can possibly either use live or for future episodes. So I'll have my handheld camera, and I'd like to speak to all of the different exhibitors and all of their projects, and maybe get some good content to post to both the channel for interview segments or just segments for future CoCoTalks. So hopefully a lot of good content will come from Tandy Assembly. But that's a great question that I hadn't thought about. It's about having people call into, because I'm not sure how other people are going to be able to hear you, because we didn't have to have like a speaker system for other people to hear you, unless maybe I just have headphones on and I'll hear the question and relay the question. To be
I was thinking if you did like a call-in segment, near the end of the show or something, where other people could, who couldn't make the actual show, can pipe in some questions. Not throughout the show. That would be a bit too much.
That is to be determined, and to be fair and safe and realistic, maybe the audio portion might not work, but you should be able to at least text chat, and then we could then just verbally repeat the question for people to hear and address those questions. But yeah, it would obviously be great to have people call in. But remind me, and we'll look into that, and we'll try to make it happen for sure.
Okay. That's only 2 questions I had.
Okay. And Jim Brain, who just joined us, welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you. And anything you want to let us know about, like either things you've been working on recently or things you got to possibly unveil or at least show off at Tandy Assembly?
Well, that's the thing, right? Do I tell about them now, or do I wait and unveil them at Tandy Assembly? Right?
Oh, okay. We don't want any no spoilers.
I sort of spilled the beans a little bit about the fact that you're working on a 2 meg memory expansion, Jim. I hope I didn't.
Well, actually, I talked about that at CoCo Fest, so I think that's okay.
We talked about it on the CoCoTALK too. So
yeah, that's true. We have. I think I can show. So David's still on, isn't he? Or is he? Is he still sick?
He's still
okay.
Here.
I'm here. I'm here, Jim.
So I can. I don't know if it's gonna show very well, but I can kind of show off. I took one of David's. It's David's project, really. So David's been working on an adapter to support PS2 mice for like CoCo Max 3. Is that right, David?
Well, it would be usable for pretty much any, joystick-driven thing. It's just instead of, using the joystick for a mouse, you use a mouse for a mouse.
Yeah, that's true. So hopefully you weren't trying to make it kind of keep it a lot secret, but maybe
no. We've been talking about that for a while.
So he's been under the weather, and I had an opportunity to throw in a bunch of boards into the prototype bin, and so I took his design and I added a little bit to it so you could continue to use your joysticks as well as a PS2 mouse, and then also have a pass through, and then also haven't gotten it working. I haven't written the code for it yet, but to be able to select which of the joystick ports the PS2 mouse is connected to. So I've got a little bit of video or not video, but I've got it on my web camera right now, so you can see it if I can turn on the thing right there. So there it is, and so David, that's your design, basically just kind of blown up a bit. So I'll maybe get a little pin here and I can show you the different things. So right now it's got. This is the extra mouse that's connected, or this is not the extra mouse, the Tandy joystick that's connected.
Okay, that's the input.
And then, and then you got the other one out for the other side, and then you've got the brains of it, which is an AVR microcontroller, and you've got 2 digital to analog converters, and then you've got the parts of it that go to your CoCo itself. So you've got left and right here as well, and you got power over here that you can get via USB, like a wall wart or whatever powers the PS2 port, and some various things inside here. So I think it's a pretty cool project. David should get so when he's not working on floppies and stuff like that, he works on stuff like that. So
you should get an attaboy for that, right? So
that's right. So I'm going to bring this to Tandy Assembly. Hopefully, I'll have the PS2 being able to flip between the two joysticks, joystick ports. I'll have that working by Tandy Assembly, and
okay,
we can show that off while we're there.
That's cool.
Yep. And it supports the high-res joystick interface as well as regular, correct?
The high-res, well, when you say the high-res joystick interface, you're saying the CoCo 3 way of detecting more than 63 levels on the regular joystick interface. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about the cartridge?
Either that or simulating the Steve Bjork design one.
I think there's 3 different high-res interfaces at this point. You've got the one that was for CoCo Max, the Radio Shack high-res interface, and then you've got the custom.
The software-based solution.
Actually do a high-res interface over the standard joystick without using any additional hardware.
No.
Yeah, and that's what this one does. So, okay. I probably could do simulate the other two, but I think the other two require like you plug in something to the cartridge port.
To the serial port. And it uses
the cartridge port, the CoCo Max and serial port or cassette port for the.
Yeah, cassette port. Yep.
Okay.
They both use the cassette port.
Yeah, my original design, the only thing it would do is it had used a 12-bit DAC, and therefore if you plugged the adapter into the high-res joystick converters, it would work through those without any issue. So if you had them, it would work with them. But otherwise, as far as it itself, it's just seen as a high-resolution analog device and didn't do any of the extra adapter protocols.
I can take a look at that. There's still a little bit of capability in the project, so I could take a look and see if it's easy to add that high-res joystick interface capability. I don't know much about it at this point.
Neither did I. That's why I didn't bother with it.
But to be somewhat of a just pass-through adapter, it's still pretty impressive to be able to use use a nice mouse.
Yep.
That are a little bit more. You probably have a better opportunity to get an actual PS2 mouse than you will to find a Tandy Deluxe 2-button mouse at this point. Those are a little bit less common. And now, so for collectible purposes and nostalgic purposes, having the Tandy mouse would be nice. But for actual quality of mouse, I would imagine just about anything else is probably better at this point too.
Yes, yeah, I've used 4 different brands of PS2 mice. 3 of them were 3 different year-separated versions of the optical PS2 Logitech mice.
Okay.
And one was one of the PS2 Microsoft optical mice. So.
CoCoTALK.
And they all.
Put across the top of this one.
Nice. Bruce, you're not muted.
I would imagine it would work with a PS2 trackball as well.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. The main issue David and I haven't had a chance to talk. I've been a little weather and whatnot, but I was adding in the pass-through capability, and I ran into the challenge that the PS2 mouse is obviously, well, any mice. I mean, the interface is kind of immaterial, but the mouse itself is very precise, and so when you're not moving the mouse, it's not giving you any kind of information. As soon as you move the mouse, it gives you information as to how far it's moved and what buttons are pushed or whatnot. But the joystick continues to, it's just a set of potentiometers or variable resistors, and they're not incredibly precise. And so every time that you scan the joysticks, you get different readings, slightly different readings. They're off by maybe 1 or 2 values. And if you're scanning them at 10 bits of resolution, which is what I'm scanning them at, you're, from a 0 to 63 perspective, like on the CoCo, it wouldn't change. But when you're in 10 bits, you're 0 to 1024, and they slide around a little bit. And so what I was trying to figure out is when you're using both units, you have to be able to tell when to use the mouse and when to use the joystick. And so initially I had a couple different options to figure out when one was moving and one was not. But ultimately I decided that anytime the mouse moves, the mouse takes over. And the joystick, it'll switch to the joystick if you hold the joystick to one of the corner or one of the edges. So if you hold the joystick edges, it'll flip using the joystick. Otherwise, the joystick would always take over from the mouse, because every time the joystick would change its value a little bit, the software would say, oh, the joystick's moved, I'll go ahead and switch to it, which would be quite annoying if you were using the mouse and you had the joystick just laying on the desk.
Interesting. Things that I would never even thought of, but yeah, so some of the challenges by having this pass-through scenario with multiple devices going to the same input. So, yeah. Interesting. Very
Jim. And you're taking an approach that I was actually thinking of something else, is which, I haven't gotten around to doing my input version yet, but I thought about using the center mouse button just to trigger when to switch from the mouse to the joystick. Because then you could just click the button and then you're from the mouse to the joystick, click the button again and you're back to the mouse.
Yep, I've got that in there as well. So if you want to switch to the joystick, you can click one of the buttons. You can click either one of them. The problem I had with that is let's say that you were working on a piece of, let's say you're working on the next, masterpiece, right? And you've been using the mouse to do part of it, but you want to switch over to the joystick, but you don't actually want to put a dot anywhere. Well, you wouldn't want to use the button, because then you'd accidentally maybe put a dot somewhere. So at least if you move the move the joystick without having to press the button, it gives you another option to switch over to joystick as opposed to having to press a button.
Yeah, I think that's why David was mentioning using the third button, because no CoCo program wouldn't have a clue about a third button. So it'd be
I didn't know about the third button, and I don't. Well, hold it. The third button. So
the third button center mouse button. Scroll wheel. You push in on the scroll wheel. That's typically the third button.
Yeah, the middle mouse button.
Oh, the middle button on the mouse. I got it.
Yeah, because you could make that a safe way to switch between, because the CoCo, like I said, except for a couple of obscure Nitrous 9 drivers using the RS-232 pack and the old Logitech mice, nothing ever used a third button. And even then, I think most of the time they just remapped it to the second anyway.
Yeah, that's true. You could do that. Well, code's easy to change, so I'll dump it off to David, and he can figure out what he wants to do there. So one of the other things I was going to plan on doing, and I don't know how much utility it has, is at least on other platforms, sometimes you plug one joystick in, but you have two ports, and so inevitably whatever port you plug your joystick into is the wrong port for whatever game you're trying to play.
That happens a lot.
Okay.
Yes.
So I thought one of the options, since I've got both joystick ports here, one of the options I thought is having a way of swapping the ports, so you can swap A to B and then
cool.
back again. Yeah.
You just gave me an idea. Center mouse button, then you right click or left click to switch ports.
For left or right.
Hey, hold down the center button and then.
Sounds like that's gonna need a user manual.
It's so intuitive, you never have to crack open the manual.
That's right.
Ease of use.
Ease of use.
Ease of use. So I've got some other stuff going on for Tandy Assembly, but not quite ready to show those off yet. But I thought David would want to see this, since this is really his project. I haven't really done much except just kind of augmented a bit while I've been waiting for him to get well.
That's awesome.
Oh, I'm sure there's a few people that would be happy to buy those up down there.
Yes. and I don't know if you were privy to this before, Jim, but we now have I have officially decided that if a CoCo enthusiast is ever sick now, it's referred to as the mega bug.
A mega bug. I heard that.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Got it.
A lot of that mega bug has been going around. So yeah. So we're getting over the bug. So.
What's the possibility of using a USB mouse and having the logic in the mouse adapter convert that to look like analog readings to the CoCo?
It's the same thing. The problem I've run into with USB is the joy or the benefit of working on some of these projects is the idea of using some of these very small microcontrollers. I'm partial to the AVR line of microcontrollers, but there's a couple different Brands Microchip, who now owns Atmel, who makes the AVR. They're all good microcontrollers. The AVR microcontrollers are very easy to program with, and they have a C language. GCC is available for them, and so forth, and so that's easy to develop for them. The challenge with the AVR microcontrollers is, in order to use a mouse in an interfacing project like this, you need to implement what's called host mode. So host mode means you act like a PC as opposed to you act like a mouse. And the development, the CPUs or microcontrollers that have a device mode, I guess what you call it, the number of controllers that have device mode are plentiful, and they're very cheap. But the number of microcontrollers that have host mode or on the mode, OTG, which allow you to hook a mouse into them or a joystick or something like that, they're much less plentiful and they're much more expensive. And the AVR microcontroller that offers on-the-go mode is a very expensive microcontroller. It's probably like $6 or $8, whereas as the microcontroller that's on the board I just showed you a little while ago is probably 50 cents or a buck.
Oh wow!
So that's a bit of a challenge. There are cheaper microcontrollers that have on-the-go functionality, but they're another architecture. So they're microchipped architecture, and I'm not as familiar with them. And so to answer your question, there's not really a problem with the software capability. It's pretty easy to read a USB mouse. There's a lot of projects out there that allow you to do that. And then, of course, once you get the data from the USB mouse, the rest of David's project is pretty straightforward. You pass it to a digital analog converter, and you're done. But getting those microcontrollers to be inexpensive enough so that you can embed them into a project like this is a bit of a challenge. And so I'm still hoping for Atmel to come up with a cheaper option, because I'd rather not at this point change my entire tool chain to use the microchipped products just so I can use that USB on-the-go functionality, because I don't really use microchip. You kind of design your hobbyist projects or whatnot around one particular microcontroller, just like it'd be like asking everybody on the call that writes for 6009 to suddenly switch over and write Z80 code or 6502 code. It's doable, but it's a pain, and you got to come up with an entire different set of tools, and you got to come up with an entire different way of thinking about programming, and then any of your libraries that you rely upon, which maybe some folks don't do that here, but there are USB libraries, and they're available plentifully for the AVR, but they're not as plentiful for the microchip line. So it's just a challenge in finding something that's economical to put a project together around. But I agree, though, USB would be, PS2 mice are probably getting to be harder to find, and not all of them support, like this one that's plugged in right here, supports both protocols, USB or PS2, but the number of ones that are going to do that probably are dwindling considerably. So it would be something to think about. I'm just kind of waiting on that opportunity for a cheap on-the-go microcontroller that can be embedded in projects like this.
So you mean it's like asking Nick Marentes to switch over and write code for OS-9?
I watched a commercial earlier today on the show. It seemed to me like Nick was very much enthused about OS-9. That was the story I heard, anyway.
That was our celebrity impersonator.
Yes.
It was. It may have been. I caught it only so slightly. I might have been mistaken, but...
Yeah, well, one of the guilty parties behind that just joined us recently too. Bruce Moore is here. How are you, Bruce?
G'day, mates.
G'day, mates. Bruce, we need to hear you say ease of use.
Ease of use.
I need to sample that and put it in my soundboard and just drop that from time to time.
That would be very fun.
So on the plus side, actually, I've found... Jim, I've actually found that a large number of devices still do actually have both protocol support, because what's happened is, I'm sure it'll eventually go away, but what has happened so far is a lot of the stuff that was designed was using chips that they made, that they put both protocols in the chip, in the mouse or the trackball, and then going forward, they're still using a lot of those same chips. So a lot of PS2 devices have a hidden PS2 mode in there, and you just need a physical adapter or you just plug into a USB port that is speaking that protocol, and miraculously the thing will start talking in PS2.
Well, that's good. I mean, I'm happy to support them as long as they provide them. I forget who was asking about. Oh, it was, I think, Nick asking about USB. I've shied away from USB for another reason. It's inevitable that everybody in the hobbyist community is going to have to eventually migrate over to devices that are USB. But the problem I have is, I have a kind of unique vantage point because I sell quite a few products to quite a few people, and from all over the world. And you would be surprised how many people do not understand that if you sell a device and it has a USB port on it, that does not automatically mean that they can plug anything into that port, right? So that's the beauty and the curse of USB, because in a PC, you have enough memory and enough capability to load drivers for your scanner and your printer and your mouse and your VGA adapter and whatnot. But if you put a hobbyist thing out there and it has a USB port on it, I can just imagine the phone call or the email that's going to come where somebody says, well, this interface does not work because I plugged in my scanner and it will not recognize it. And you're like,
how come it doesn't recognize my USB coffee maker?
That's right. Now your USB fan it might work with, but that's right. I mean, and I know a lot of people were wondering, well, I can't buy a printer unless it's a USB printer, and so I really want to get a printer. Oh, here, Jim's got something that has a USB port on it. Let me buy that. It says it's something for a mouse, but surely it'll work the same. Right. I'll buy it, and then I'll plug my printer in, and then it won't work, and then I'm going to email him, and I'm going to post on the forum that he's horrible and he's stupid, and he has crappy products because it doesn't work with my printer. So there's a little bit of hesitation there.
Sure. Yeah, you gotta protect your your brand, your reputation, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
You just have to make it for Lightning instead.
But just bear in mind, you're probably going to have the occasional customer that's going to try and plug the USB printer into it anyway, and then still curse at you.
Well, yeah.
That's David.
No, I know better. I'm not the people that rent a Mac and then plug a PC parallel port printer into the SCSI port and blow everything up.
I don't know. You killed quite a few PCs lately, so I'm not so sure about that.
Right. Well, Jim, we certainly appreciate you, as always, sharing your stuff with us. You got a lot of cool things going on. We got a lot of really brilliant people in our community doing a lot of really cool things, and it's great to be a fly on the wall and see this stuff happen here. Cool stuff, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in person. Is your daughter going to come with you to Tandy Assembly?
I don't know. I think it's just going to be me. Okay. So sorry that you won't get the chance to meet her again, but
yeah, I bought some earrings from her at CoCo Fest for my daughters. So yeah.
Fair enough. It
runs in the family. The circuit board designs, right? So
it's true. No, it does seem like over the past, it seems like maybe the last 18 months or maybe a little bit 15 months or so, it seems like there's been somewhat of an explosion of people designing new hardware capabilities for the platform. So I would assume everybody's excited about that.
Yeah, and I think one project probably inspires others when people see that this can be done and people are doing this and consumers and the community is responding to it. I think all those things fuel this innovation and inspiration and stuff like that. So. And obviously things like you've talked about, the ability to create prototypes and have boards produced for you. This is an exciting time for that certainly help in quickly facilitating that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's when you're putting a board run together, it's like $20 to ship the boards from the board house, and you can put basically any amount of boards that you want in there. And this board, you can get 10 of them for $5.90. So it's almost as if you're it's useless to try to not buy the board, even if you're sure that like this design's not the design I would go into any kind of production status with, because I would use surface mount parts and junk like that. But still, I mean, for $6 you can't go wrong.
No, that's cool. Very, very cool. Is that good? Are you done with that now?
I'm as done as you want me to be.
No, okay, that's fine. I wanted to give Bruce a chance, but I didn't want to interrupt if you were still had more things to talk about.
Nope.
I need to drop off of here, so I'll see you guys in the next show.
All right, Barry, thanks for joining us.
Later, Barry.
Say hi to the kids and the parrots for us.
We'll do.
All right. And Bruce Moore, author of Forest of Doom. How are you? Thanks for joining us at the final chapter, the final segment of this week's CoCoTALK.
Yes, at the final hour. Yes, I am well. I had a question now. This is based on a comment Curtis made last week.
Uh-oh.
So I was talking about, no, this is good. This is all good stuff because it inspired me. So I said that with Forest of Doom, I made an original soundtrack that you're supposed to put on your, player of choice and have it play in the background while you play the game. Curtis said, well, why don't you run it straight through the cassette cable and have it come with CoCo speaker? And I thought,
sure.
And at the moment I was like, oh, okay. And then I got thinking about it. I said, hey, I like that idea. So I started experimenting. Will the play command and the audio trans go through at the same time? Well, they won't, it turns out. But you can always just turn audio on back on again when the big battle is over and all the sound effects are done. So that will actually work. So now here's my question. I'm trying to see if I can make this work on VCC. And so with VCC, I load up something into the tape player. And I go audio on, motor on, and I don't hear anything. At least this is what's happening for me. And I wonder if anybody else can confirm that just doesn't happen with VCC, and if the emulators are out of luck.
I've never tried it on VCC, to be honest.
I'm not sure. A lot of the emulators are designed to just look for your data patterns for loading your programs. This is where I wish Kieran was available, because I know he does some really funky stuff for his really quick tape loading routines under Disk Basic. So,
well, I'm just wondering if I'm just doing it wrong or something, because I can load a cassette file or a WAV file that I loaded from the Color Computer Archive. I tried Berserk and loaded up just fine, but if I tried doing audio on while it's loading, nothing happens.
Right. I think
that's probably an emulator issue then, I would guess, because it does definitely, you can hear the noise on a real CoCo.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, shoot.
So I wonder if it's just only looking for the like the modem-y type sound to translate into bits, and it's not looking for analog audio sound, possibly.
Possibly, except I tried to see if I could hear actually Berserk loading, and I didn't hear anything there either. This is VCC, the 2 point whatever. I never tried it on the more standard earlier version.
Okay.
So
Karen has just chimed in a little bit on our little Skype chat thing where he says XRoar sort of passes tape audio through, but it's based on the zero crossings, so it ends up sounding quite crunchy. It wouldn't be good for this.
Okay.
So, okay. And Richard's got to go. Richard Lorbieski just says I got to go. Okay, Richard, thanks for being here. Hopefully we'll see you next week, and definitely looking forward to seeing you at Tandy Assembly.
So, Bruce, I got a question for Bruce. So, and Nick's still on, right? Nick's still there. I see him. So, Nick came up with a really, I thought, kind of neat idea. Well, he was saying the speech sound pack was really cool because it had a processor in it that you could send it some commands and say, hey, start playing this music. I'm gonna go off and do something else, and then when I get done, I don't have to wait around for you. I don't have to actually drive the music and whatnot. Is that something that would be of interest or not? Right.
Right. Well, probably not on this project.
Because you've already got pre-recorded music, right? He's got music that he's already recorded. That's basically like an MP3 format or something like that, right?
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it was just a neat idea. That to have it come through the CoCo, and if the emulators can't do it, then I guess that's only people with real hardware could actually pull that one off.
I would try it under MAME because MAME would be your best shot.
Yeah. If I can figure out how to do it, that'll be the trick. That's why I was thinking VCC, because VCC equals ease of use.
Ease of use.
But MAME, it's like, oh my gosh, where would I start?
That MAME is a mess, I tell you.
But maybe it's worth just taking a quick look at, because if there's if it does work under MAME and it's not too complicated, then maybe that's not a bad thing.
Far out.
That was my question.
So when can we expect to purchase Forest of Doom?
November. So
okay.
I think probably the first Saturday in November probably we'll do a launch.
Okay.
And launch it on CoCoTALK if that's cool.
It would be an honor.
And I plan on at this point having a contest. First person to send me evidence of winning is going to get a unique item or something like that.
Neat,
so I'm just still working that out. But
I don't know if you saw earlier, but Curtis was showing us a game that was based kind of like on an Ultima type game, and there was a lot of interesting. He was kind of drawing parallels to your book, where there was a lot of interesting stuff that came with this, where there was like a wire that you had, a physical wire that came with the package that tied into the game, and some cards and some piece of paper that had like burned edges that fit in with the story and stuff like that. So it was like a lot of kind of augmented reality memorabilia that came with this game back from 90-something.
That
89 and 93,
Yeah, that would be kind of cool to have something like that whatever this is, it ties into the story, and it's, it's a tangible little thing that goes along with it.
Right. Well, the strategy guide does fit into the story and all that.
Yeah.
So
and that's something that's so missing from today's everything. We don't get anything on paper anymore. It used to be you bought a computer and you got a book, and you bought a computer and you even 5-10 years ago, if you bought a computer, you got the CDs to reinstall your operating systems and your applications and drivers, and it is somewhat of a manual. Now everything is basically digital and downloading and PDF, and there's not too much paper being pushed with software anymore, and so that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, well, I've even got some stuff that you're going to have to decode it. I mean, if you really want to know what it says, you're going to have to figure it out.
Oh wow!
It's not key to winning the game, but it could be helpful. So
just do it. Just whatever you do, write it down in the metric system, and nobody in America will know what you're saying. So.
All of us Canadians will win the free prizes then. So.
Yeah, the Canadians will just take it.
And the UK people. Yeah. I should mention, Siren just posted in the Skype chat there. Apparently, MAME, it does work.
Okay.
Did he post instructions though?
It's ease of use.
Oh my God!
It's self-explanatory, isn't it? It's you install this driver and then you redo your boot file, and
you don't even need a manual.
You modify the header descriptor of it and
re-verify the CRC, and it's a piece of cake.
Well, okay, yeah. I'll take a crack at it. If I can't get it within 5 minutes, I don't think I can expect any.
Oh, he did post help.
He did. He gave you some syntax in there. Yeah, so there you go.
Okay, I'll check it out. Very good.
Actually, maybe post that into the YouTube chat there, just so that it's on the recording too.
If you guys want to copy and paste that, it's going to be hard for me to juggle that right now.
It's nice like that. You have to decrypt all the instructions.
Yeah.
Part of the design.
Yeah. That's what makes it so fun, right?
Yeah.
Ease of use.
Ease of decryption.
Oh, Nick, you say that much better than that Marionetta's guy.
Marionette's a hack. Celebrity impersonations. That's funny. All right, well, to further steal more from the CoCo Crew podcast, have we beat this one to death?
We finally broke the 3-hour mark again, so I think we did.
I think we did. I think I might have one more Forest of Doom commercial queued up here in the commercial playlist. So let me see if I can switch over. If we can get Forest of Doom trailer 2, that might play here in just a second, and then we'll kind of close this guy out here in just a second.
Hi, this is Randy Kindig of the Floppy Days podcast. I just love me some CoCo, and nobody covers it better than Steve Strobridge. You're listening to CoCoTALK.
This feud between the king and his half-brother, the wizard, has been going on for long before I was around. Presently, the king's scepter has been in the wizard's grasp for over 50 years, and his highness has worked himself into a royal frenzy. At first, he managed to get volunteers to deliver the ransom, promising them great wealth and even a promotion to royal office, but none of them succeeded. I don't know why I decided to go to the public market that day, But there I was, minding my own business, when with a fanfare of trumpets the king arrived, casting his baleful eye about the masses. He fixed his eye on me this time, and now I find myself another unwilling adventurer in the forest of doom. Hey! Oh my word. There's nothing for it now, lad. It's do or die.
Are you ready?
I love it.
Ooh, the suspense is killing me. Yes. Another fine product for our Tandy color computer. Coming to a CoCo near you this November. Good stuff. And by the way, shameful plug, but there is a link to Bruce's blog on I'mACoconut.com. So if you go to blogs and projects, you'll find a link to the Forest of Doom development blog there, along with Fun Star by Nick Marionettes.
It was finished last weekend, right?
Yeah, it was finished over a weekend. And produced on ROM cartridge.
For OS-9.
Yep. Good stuff. All right, guys. Yeah, it's way past my I've been hungry time. And we are now on 3 hours. So this is an average length episode of CoCoTALK. It's a mere scant 3 hours of techno babble for your listening perusement. And good stuff. As always, I want to thank everybody who's been here in the call. And I actually have a way to figure that out now, which I forgot. But how can I do that? Who's been in this Skype call? So we started off with John Strong and Richard Lorbieski. Then Barry Nelson joined us. Bill Nobel joined us. L. Curtis Boyle joined us. David Ladd, Simon Jonassen, Rick Adams, Nick Marentes, Retro Innovations, and Bruce Moore all joined us. In the live chat, we had Grant Leedy. We had Karen, who is 60. We had Logan Pendleton stop by. Richard Lorbieski was also in the live chat. Jim Brain was in the live chat. Retro Innovations. Norlander stopped by in the live chat. Richard Cavell from the UK was in the live chat. And, yeah. So, yeah, we had a lot of people joining us, a lot of people watching us. And as always, the support is appreciated. And you know, I wouldn't keep doing this every week if I didn't feel like somebody actually appreciated what we were doing here. And I appreciate everybody who's part of the panel each week for your time and your talent and your contributions. And I appreciate everybody who watches the show and listens to the show as well. So I think episode 27 of CoCoTALK is a wrap. Anybody have anything they want to close up with as far as maybe something we'll talk about next week or something to think about, some closing words of wisdom, anything like that?
Ease of use.
There you go. Ease of use. We gotcha. That's it. So that's it, folks. I'm going to play you guys some music. We're going to end up CoCoTALK. Don't forget to subscribe to the new YouTube channel. And don't forget to go to I'mACoconut.com for all of your color computer needs. And go to CoCoTalk.live for all of your CoCoTALK needs. So here's some CoCo music. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye, everybody.